6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the John DeVito Show. It is Saturday morning. My obligations for the day are done. So we brought the boys to baseball this morning. We're just chilling out, and we're getting ready for our next round of snow, which is coming tomorrow. And I've got my warm climate friends in the chat already, my friend from Alabama, Cummings, and, of course, my good friend Eric from Georgia as well. So you people have no idea. I know, Cummings, you've been saying you've been getting a lot of snow. We got, I think, 18 inches last week, and we've got another 6 to 8 inches coming tomorrow. We literally right now at the end of my driveway, we have a pile of snow that has to be, if I had to guess, probably 15 feet high. It's taller than my SUV. It's taller than the shed we have in the backyard. It's taller than our camper. It is huge. My boys are going up and climbing to the top of this thing and jumping into the backyard. I mean, honestly, I don't think that snow is going to be gone from our backyard until God knows, like May. It's such a huge pile right now, but kind of funny. Yeah, but hey, that's the time of year I'm dealing with here in Massachusetts. You know, it's snowy, it's cold, it's February. That's what we're dealing with. Of course, I am excited. I'm excited that we've booked a trip to Florida. So we're going to experience some nice warm weather. You know, we're going to be in the Orlando area, the Fort Myers area, and just get away from the cold for a little bit. So that's going to be good. Hey, listen, for my friends out there, I'm trying something new. I've had some other friends that have talked about they have been using PayPal and Venmo to get maybe some donations for their show. You know, in the past, a lot of people have been using the Gold Beans or the Pod Beans or whatever they are. But, you know, Podbean has taken a big fat chunk out of those donations from everybody. So all of you out there are spending more money to donate to my show. And the hosts of all the different shows are getting less money. So if any of you would like to donate to the show, I've got my PayPal information, which is actually my wife's, and I've also got my Venmo information, and I use that quite a bit also. So, you know, anything that helps us offset the cost of the shows would be greatly appreciated. And if you don't want to donate, that's fine too. Do not feel like you have to, okay? So anyway, just kind of chilling today. I've got, you know, we as you know, we've been talking a lot about politics on the show, talking about a lot of different things, some social issues. I wanted to talk about something today that I think is kind of a cool thing to talk about, and hopefully I can give some of you younger guys out there a little bit of a different view as to what the world was like when I was younger, and compare it to what it's like today. If anybody wants to call in, you're more than welcome to call in and join the panel. So, going back to, you know, my younger years. Now I'm 53 years old, and I'm thinking about growing up in the 70s and in the 80s. Okay, I was born in 1968, so you figure by the time 1980 came around, I was 12 years old. All right, so in the 1970s, the world was a different place. It was a different place in a lot of different ways. I mean, obviously, a lot of the social stuff that happened, you know, then compared to now was different. You know, were more people, I guess, racist back then? I mean, maybe. I think people just talked about it more back then. I think that, you know, with racism, we have, you know, people now that hide it better, you know, in 2021. So I don't know if you can necessarily say there was more or less racism back then. But what I'm looking at is when I was a kid, again, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, I'm thinking about my childhood. I'm thinking about the way I was as a kid, the way all of my friends were as children, and the way I see children today or younger people today. It's just such a vast difference in the way we all grew up. Now, going back to like the 70s, I mean, a typical summer day for a kid like me, and I may even take it a step further and tell a story that my father just told me a couple days ago, which I thought was amazing and super cool. But anyway, for me, a typical day in the mid 1970s, late 1970s, in the summer was I would literally get up in the morning. Who knows? I'd have my breakfast. At the time there were probably 5 or 6 TV stations. There was no internet. There was no video games really that you wanted to play, and you didn't have the option of sitting in your house every day, with your headphones on, playing Xbox with friends, watching 800 channels, being on social media all day long, because none of those things existed. And a lot of people will say, people that live now, they'll say, boy, it must have been boring. What did you do back then? I mean, how did you have fun? And the more I think about it and I look at the way the kids are raised today, and I feel bad for the children today, because I look at them and the way that they interact with their friends. It was so much different than the way I did when I was a child. And I mean, for me, a typical day was I would get up, maybe watch, I don't know, an hour of cartoons, because there were certain channels that maybe had like 2 hours of cartoons in the morning, and then maybe 2 hours like in the afternoon time when you would normally get out of school. And at night and during the day, there were no cartoons on. It was soap operas, shows like that. That's all they had. So you would get up, you would eat your breakfast, you'd have maybe an hour's worth of cartoons to watch on TV, and then it's a beautiful day. You've got nothing to do. You would literally get on your bike, and my parents would allow it. All parents allowed it. You would get on your bike. I didn't have a cell phone, so I couldn't check in with my parents. My mother would just say to me, listen, if you want, come home for lunch. I'll make you lunch. Otherwise, if you're gone, make sure you're home before it's dark. So I would probably leave my house, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. I'd get on my bike. I lived on a main road, and I would ride to one of the neighborhoods in my town. And I literally, at the age of, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, I would literally ride my bike all over my town. I grew up in New Hampshire. It wasn't like a city. It was a small town. And my friends all lived a pretty good distance away from where I lived. And you had to ride your bike to get there. And there was one neighborhood that was close to me. And I would ride my bike over into that neighborhood. And there were always kids out playing in that neighborhood. So literally, I would get on my bike, I would ride over, and if nobody was out, we would ring doorbells. And that's just the way it was. You didn't have mom and dad setting up play dates. You didn't have mom and dad getting involved. I would get on my bike, I would ride into a neighborhood, I would go up and ring the doorbell of someone's house. Hey, can Mike come out and play? Can Scott come out and play? And they would always say yes, because their parents wanted them out of the house. So literally, as a kid, I would spend very little time in my house. I would be out riding my bike around. We would be, playing baseball. We'd be playing basketball. We'd play tackle football in my neighbor's yard. We would, do all these different things. We'd go fishing. We would be off on our own without our parents intervening in every decision we made in our lives. And for me, when I go back and look at my childhood and realize, all the adventures I had, all the different things I did, it was so much fun. And it also taught me how to be self-sufficient. It taught me problem-solving skills, and you were out all the time, personally interacting with people. I mean, you were with people all the time. And, if you did something wrong in somebody else's neighborhood, you'd hear about it from the other person's parents. They'd lay into you and they'd straighten you out. And they wouldn't necessarily call your parents and get you in trouble, but they would kind of kick your ass themselves and let you know, if you're going to do that shit, don't come back to my neighborhood. So there was this thing where when I was a kid, you would not sit home, and you would be out riding your bike. You'd be fishing. You'd be playing basketball. You'd be playing football, baseball, wiffle ball, whatever it is. You're riding to the local store to buy baseball cards. I mean, that was my childhood every single day. And when I look at, my children and a lot of the children of today, I see they sit in their TV room. They've got, we've got 2 TVs in there. And, part of this is our fault because we buy all the stuff. They've got Xboxes, 2 Xboxes. And their version of hanging out with friends is sitting in their chair, putting on their headphones, playing Madden, playing, whatever it is, Call of Duty, whatever games they play, and interacting with their friends in that manner. Very rarely do you have kids that are getting out now together and playing outside. And I know to some, it may seem stupid. For those that didn't grow up the way I grew up, you may look and go, well, what you did was boring. It really wasn't. I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome. You were out playing with friends. You were having a good time. You were interacting. You were developing social skills. And today I see a whole generation of children that just do not know how to go out and play. They don't know how to interact with other people. They don't have social skills that have been developed because of all the, the playing and things like that we did during the day. And to me, it's sad. It's sad for me to see it. So, the point of my show today, hey, Chris, the point, and thank you to everybody coming in. I'm just kind of doing my pre-show rant to kind of get the conversation going. And then I'm welcoming callers. If anybody wants to call in and give me their feelings on this, I'd love to hear it. So feel free to call in. I'll let you in. And then when I'm done giving my introduction, I'll let people, talk and do their thing. So, that was my childhood. And when my kids were really little, they're more teenagers now, okay? But when my kids were really little, we would tell them, listen, this is how we grew up, okay? We want you in the summer to go ring doorbells. Get out of our house, go outside, find friends to play with. That's what we did as kids, okay? And that's what all the kids did back in our day. All of them. If any of you have watched the movie like The Sandlot, the baseball movie, I love that movie. It's based in the 1950s. And it just shows these young boys out playing every day, playing baseball, getting into trouble and doing all these different things. But it was just awesome, and that's what my life was like. That's what my father's life was like. And I look at what my kids are like now. When we sent them, when they were little, we said to them, all right, you get outside and you ring doorbells. Because I live in a big neighborhood and there's quite a few kids in the neighborhood. So I would send my kids out to ring doorbells, and the reception they got from a lot of kids and a lot of parents were, who are these kids just ringing our doorbell? Why didn't their parents call up and set up a play date? My kid just can't come outside when you ring the doorbell. We need to plan something. Why? Why do we need to plan something? Why can't children ring another doorbell, invite a kid outside to play, and have it be freestyling? Get on your bikes, ride up to the park, go into the woods, go fishing, do some things, have some fun instead of sitting in front of the television, sitting in front of the Xbox, sitting in front of your social media accounts, instead of making TikTok videos and all these different things they do. Now, I get it. Social media is fun. I've got, I'm an older guy, but I've got a ton of social media. I dump Facebook because I can't stand Zuckerberg, but I've got Twitter, even though I'm suspended. I've got TikTok, even though I'm suspended. I guess I have a problem. I need to stop getting suspended. I've got Sprout Hub. I just added Gab the other day. So I do like social media, and there is a place for it, in this world. But damn, it can't be everything. It can't be everything. And I would love to see a world when the kids maybe get back to playing outdoors a little bit and not just relying on technology. Now, we're going to take the technology talk a step further, because I want to get into eventually talking about bullying on social media, okay? I want to talk about trolls in social media. As a lot of you know, on this show alone, we've had a lot of trouble with trolls. We've had them in other shows. Some of my very good friends that are here right now have been trolled, have been treated very poorly. There have been very bad things said about people that I care about on this platform. And we're going to get into this more. But the one thing I want to say is, when you have people that are coming out and trolling shows like this, and shows like Cummings, and shows like Slightly, and shows that Eric are on, and even Chris's show, and people like that, how hard is it to develop a fake screen name and come onto someone's show and put them down, to make slurs based on things that have happened to them in the past, to say terrible things based on people's sexuality or color or things like that? I mean, if you want to say something, come out, be a man, be a woman, whatever you are, and
have the balls.
Have the balls to put your name to it. Have the balls. If you got something to say, have the balls to come out and say it to someone instead of hiding behind a fake screen name. Because for me, the worst type of person in today's society is a person who is a coward and hides behind a fake screen name and has to come out and put other people down. And if that's what you do, if you want to come in and you want to say, yeah, John's this, John's a racist, you know nothing about me. And people have come in and said that. You know nothing about me. That could not be the furthest from the truth. John DeVito, the person, I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're the custodian or the CEO of a company. It does not matter to me. I don't care if you're straight. if you're transgender, if you're gay, it does not matter to me. Now, again, I'm 53 years old. I might not always use the proper terms. I don't do that intentionally. The world has changed a lot from the time I was young, and I'm trying to learn. My daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, explained to me a little bit yesterday as to why people, like on some of their profiles, will put, she, her, they, them. I just didn't understand. And she explained it to me, and now it made more sense. So if I ever phrase something the wrong way, it's not intentional. It's just because I'm older and I'm still learning. And that's one thing I always look about life. I think you always have to learn no matter how old you get, because the world's going to change. I got Jeremy in here. You're 28 years old. By the time you're my age, man, the world's going to change a lot. It's going to change a lot. Eric, you're 36 years old. The world's going to change a lot. You have to be willing to roll with the changes, because if you can't, then it's going to be, hard for you to, I guess, move forward. So before I get into too much of a talk about technology, negative things in culture, what I want to go back to really quickly is I want to tell you the story that my father told me yesterday. I thought this was the coolest story. He's told me this a couple times in the past. I was supposed to do a show yesterday, and I had to go up and see my dad. He's 81 years old. He's got dementia. So I had to go see him. But he was telling me a story about, he grew up in the 1950s. Okay. He grew up in Amesbury, Massachusetts, small town. And in his neighborhood, he lived in an apartment building. He didn't have a lot of money. None of his friends had any money either. It was kind of a poor area at that time anyway. And he had a neighborhood where he had a lot of friends. They'd go out, do the same things I did as a kid. They'd play baseball. They'd play football. They'd do all these different things. Now, he was a huge baseball guy, loved baseball. But the story he told me was about when he was a kid, they didn't really have organized sports teams and organized leagues. So they had a neighborhood football team. And they had jerseys. They made jerseys for the team. They made them. They would play in their jeans, so they didn't have real uniforms. But they even had girls from the neighborhood that would cheer for their team. So this was a group of young boys that put together a neighborhood football team. Okay, and they had girls in the neighborhood that would cheer for their neighborhood football team. Now, the mascot for their high school is the Indians. Of course, that'll probably change at some point. The Amesbury Indians, the Fighting Indians, and they called themselves the Poe Hill Indians. So they had a team that was based on the neighborhood, and there was a giant hill in their neighborhood called Pole Hill, and it was a ski mountain at one point. So they called their team the Poe Hill Indians. So they would literally have a schedule, and they had neighborhood teams all over the town, and they would set up a schedule, and these kids would get on their bikes and ride to another neighborhood and have set football games against other neighborhoods who had the same type of thing, where they had kids that had their own uniforms, they had cheerleaders, and they would play against other neighborhoods. So they literally created a league where they had teams from all different neighborhoods in this town, and they would have a full schedule. They would have playoffs. And now the amazing thing is, when they finally got to the end of their season, and this was all kid driven, there were no referees, there were no parents involved. These were kids that did this. When they got to their championship game, now, I don't know if it's big everywhere, but out here, Thanksgiving Day football is a big thing for high schools. Everyone has a big Thanksgiving Day rivalry, and that's the big game every year that you play at the end of your season. So the Amesbury Indians high school football team, they play against Newburyport, Massachusetts every year. It's been over 100-year rivalry, a really big thing in that area. So before the game, literally the kids on the championship teams, the two championship teams, there was one from Amesbury, one from Newburyport. These kids would play a game before the actual high school football game in the high school stadium, where fans would literally come to watch them play. I mean, think about how cool that is, that these kids this is almost like a football version of the Sandlot that my father, participated in. And he talks about how his best friends were involved in this. He would play against some of his best friends across town. Thank you for the coffee. I appreciate that. And it was just amazing to hear the stories of how my father grew up as a child, how the kids were always outdoors playing, doing things, interacting with other kids. Mr. A, good to see you, man. Sorry, I've been amiss. I'm back today. I've just been on hiatus. No particular reason, just taking some time off. Life's been busy. So, it is what it is. So anyway, my father lived that life. I lived that type of life too, where I was out playing all the time with friends. Now, when kids want to do that, like I said, in my neighborhood, when my kids tried to go out and ring doorbells, they were almost considered like the unruly kids in the neighborhood. Who are these kids that are out ringing doorbells? Don't their parents watch them? Why aren't they setting up play dates? You can't just ring our doorbell and expect our kids to come out and play. Well, why not? My question is, why not? So I don't know. Hey, welcome to everybody coming in. I really appreciate that. Today we're talking about modern technology. Has it made the world a better place? Has it made it, worse? I know there are a lot of positives to modern technology. We've been talking about the effects it has on children, where, like I said, my father grew up playing outside. I grew up playing outside. My kids now play with their friends through Xbox. That's just how life is, and all the kids do it. And if they don't have an Xbox, they have no way to connect with their friends. But talking more about that, even for adults, we're talking about social media. Social media, we're all on Facebook. We're all on Instagram. We're all on, Sprout Hub, MeWe, whatever, Gab. Are we interacting with people the way we should be? I mean, we all have our phones on. I mean, you even look at my house. It's kind of embarrassing some nights where we're all sitting on the couch hanging out and we're all on our phones. We're not talking to each other. We're on our phones seeing what everybody else is doing. And to me, sometimes I just look, I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Why aren't we interacting with each other? Why are we looking to see what Sally 7 towns over from me is doing? Who cares what she's doing? Why does that matter? Cameras, we've got cameras everywhere. No matter where you go, there's cameras. I mean, it's good for, I guess, catching criminals and surveilling things, but you really can't go anywhere without a camera. You've got YouTube, 800 channels on television. You've got all these things now that we're so obsessed with. And one of the ones that really gets me, I'm going to open this up in a second. So if anybody else wants to call in, please call in. I know we've got Eric on the panel. I'd like to add more people. I'd like to have some younger people on. If there's anybody who wants to talk, I'd like to hear your opinions on what you feel about technology. I'd really like to have a good conversation about this, because who knows, maybe I'm that old curmudgeon, life's changed and I can't adapt. Maybe that's who I am. I don't know. Maybe I'm an old man now that just doesn't get it. And I'm sure that's possible. So I'd like to hear someone's opinion, but the one that really gets me, and there's a couple. Hey, Chill Will, I'm glad you're calling in, man. That's awesome. So I'm thinking about like Instagram. I'm thinking about TikTok. All right. So I'm on both of those platforms. Okay. And the one thing that I don't understand is, now I get it, that you're a young, attractive woman, you're, whatever you are, 14, 15, 16, 22, whatever age you are, you're getting onto Instagram, you're getting onto TikTok, you're becoming Instagram famous, you're becoming TikTok famous. I get it. You want to have 50,000 followers, 100,000 followers. You want to make money. It's a brand. I get it. But I just can't understand how parents can let their 14-year-old daughters get onto things like, TikTok, and have like weird old men checking them out, dancing in their bikinis, doing all these dances and things like that. I mean, these are still little girls. They're little girls, and they're gaining attraction of weird old men who are probably sitting back at the computer doing God knows what to these videos. And I can't imagine why that's a good thing to allow the younger children to do this. And, I don't know. I mean, I get it that, things have changed a lot. But for me, I just think that our society, in a lot of ways, because of technology, has gone the wrong way. And, we talked about on things like Podbean. Now, Chill Will, you're in. Chris as well. I know, Chris, you've been trolled lately, and that breaks my heart, because I had you on for a certain reason on my show, and I've been heard you've been getting trolled. You got people trolling on social media. Kids are being bullied on social media. You got people coming in here onto Podbean with fake names, calling people horrible names. I had people on my show the other day, and Chill Will, I see you on, and I don't know if you were in that night. I had a guy that came into my show with the screen name N-word. I ripped his ass. That I probably shouldn't have given him any attention, but then I've heard about, Eric being hammered because of certain things in his life, slightly serious as well.
Robert.
Robert, you're right. Robert was one of the worst ones. I have a son with autism, and Robert was absolutely bullied because, he's got some challenges in his life. And it just kills me. I guess social media and technology gives cowards a chance to hide behind their keyboard and then strike out and bully people. If you're going to be a man, if you're going to be a woman, fucking man up and come on to a show. If you want to bully me, tell me who you are. Tell me who you are. Give me your name and let us have a conversation. If you don't like me, that's okay. I don't give a shit. I probably don't like you either. But the bottom line is, if you're going to come on and you're going to troll, put your fucking name out there and troll like a man. Have some courage instead of being a coward. So, Eric, go ahead.
I will say this about the trolling issues that have been going on Podbean. And the prime example is what happened the other day at Jeremy Cummings' show. That Podbean is aware of what is going on, and and we have reason to suspect that it is not isolated to one individual, that we believe multiple parties to be possibly involved, and we don't believe it's isolated to just one show, as we believe multiple shows have been targeted, and Podbean is actively investigating where this is coming from, and I am confident that the truth will come out.
Well, I mean,
because there is no excuse for this kind of behavior.
Hopefully it does. Again, I'm a person that believes completely in free speech. I do. I believe in the Constitution.
But free speech can only go so far.
Yeah, I mean, don't bring your crap onto my show and start dropping the N-word and start calling people gay and faggots and things like that. I mean, when I hear friends of mine are being called names like that, that just pisses me off. And if you're going to say it, instead of hiding behind a screen name, be a man and come out and say it face to face instead of being a coward. So anyway, just pissed me off. So Chill Will, what's up, man? Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, man, what's happening, everybody? What's up,
Not
bro?
too much.
So welcome, Chill Will. Glad you to be here.
Well, I don't know. As far as the bullies, man, they're gonna exist. If they wouldn't be trolls if they came on as themselves, right?
Well, you're gonna have douchebags in society no matter what.
Yeah, right.
You're right about that,
So,
Chill Will.
They're gonna be several, and so what I say to that is that actually, I mean, it's something that's necessary because it gives. I understand, what you're speaking about, DeVito, is something. Say in your childhood, you had to go around and play with people. There was bullies then, bro.
Well, there were.
That's true. And so, but that gave you an opportunity. People take those opportunities. Those are not really. I mean, it can be kind of a crisis. It can affect people certain type of ways, but it's also an opportunity to learn how to deal with them type of methods. You know what I'm saying? So you have to learn how to do it. I didn't know. Okay, you got to be able to learn how to deal with those type of people. You know what I'm saying? And when they face you, that's how I learned. Everybody gets bullied on. It's not exclusive to everybody gets bullied on. And at one point, I decided to fight back, not only with my fists but with my words. I learned how to become really witty. And if you can't do that, that's okay. But overall, you have your niche. But don't never let. First and foremost is you have to have enough confidence in yourself and who you are, and your mental ability and your person to just be able to exclude it, just block them, because they're gonna be there. They're there for a reason. You can't have good without the bad. You got to start. People have to start appreciating the extremes because that's what life brings you. Just know how to handle it. And I don't let them come. Let the trolls come. That's the worst thing you want to do for me, because technically I am the troll. You know what I'm saying? You grow up, you learn. You don't want to hurt people's feelings on purpose. Jokes can be jokes, but at the same time, they were hiding behind the keyboard and you giving them attention, giving them 15, 20 minutes. They're laughing. That's what they want.
They are.
That's
right.
exactly what they want. So just ignore them. It's just like I don't know. It's just like you just ignore them. When your dog, is acting silly and you're in the house and you don't pay attention and they're doing crazy stuff, like sitting there watching TV. That's how you ignore them, and they eventually go away because it's just like no one's giving me no attention. You all right?
You guys okay? I heard someone get hurt. I heard someone fall down.
Somebody fell.
Oh yeah, somebody hit my car.
Someone hit your car?
Wow.
I'll have to call you back.
All right, call me back. Hope you're okay, man. Oh man. All right, I'll call back when you get a chance, man. So yeah, one of the difference from my childhood was this, and there are differences. When I was young, there were definitely bullies. There was no doubt. I had a lot of people that bullied me when I was a kid. But back in the day, you'd go home and tell your parents, "Hey, Dad, hey, Mom, whatever. This kid's bullying me," and your parents would say, "If you go back again, if he bullies you again, you punch him in the fucking face, and you drop him." And back in the day, you would go and do that, and it would be over. Today, what happens is when there's a bully, if the bullied kid stands up for himself, then the bullied kid gets punished just as much as the bullier, because now we have zero tolerance in schools and places like that. So if you're getting bullied and people are beating you down constantly, and then you finally stand up for yourself, then you're also being suspended from school. You're also getting things in your record. So I think today some of the power has been taken away from the kids who have been bullied because they can't stand up for themselves quite as much. So in person, that's a problem, I think, in today's society. Like I told my kids, listen, I get 4 kids, I get 3 teenagers, and I said to them point blank, listen, man, if you're being bullied, then you have every right to defend yourself. And if someone's being an asshole and someone's giving it to you, drop them. If you get in trouble in school, you come talk to me. I'm going to stand up for you with the principal. And if you get suspended there, that's fine. You're not going to get punished here for defending yourself. Now, if I find out that you're the asshole and you're the one that's bullying, you're going to get in trouble in school. And when you come home, you are not going to want to come home, because whatever punishment you got there is going to be paling in comparison to what I'm going to dish out to you here at our house. And I've always tried to make that clear to them, to hopefully create decent human beings. But I mean, who knows? My kids leave the house. I hope that they're good kids. We do what we can to try to create good people, but you never know. I mean, I'm sure my kids will go out and they're probably as big assholes as some of the other kids out there also. So you never really know, what's going on. But it's true, man. You're right about the trolling. But some of the things I've seen, most of the things, if someone comes in and says, oh, John, your show sucks, you're an asshole. Okay, whatever. You don't like my show. I don't care. You're trying to get a reaction. But when you have people taking my name and then going into other podcasts and creating fake screen names saying John DeVito is a racist, with that type of thing, then you're coming after my character. You're coming after the type of person that I am. And when I hear things like that, that's when I feel like I need to stand up and be like, listen, you know nothing about me. You don't know that I've got 4 kids, but before I had a kid, I was a big brother in the Big Brother program to a 9-year-old young boy who is now a 27-year-old man. He's now the godfather of my 3rd son. And, he's an African-American young man. He's like a son to me. So when you're saying things like John DeVito's racist, you don't know anything about me,
Right. You're absolutely right. But check this out. If someone, I have to, look, I know it's a level of, you don't want people throwing any kind of tarnish on your name. And when you see it, you address it. But overall, man, you doing you being you speaks for itself. So when somebody actually comes in contact with you, they're like, oh, what the fuck? And if people can't, like, that's one of my biggest things. You can't gauge or, you can't do anything about what people think about you and they never met you. Is that you, or is that the ignorance of the 80% of the world? After you get so old, you gotta be learn. What the what? Like that's crazy. I'm not gonna make a judgment on somebody and I never met them before, unless I really trust a person's judgment that told me some crazy stuff about someone else. Unless I really trust them, I'm not going to make any kind of determination until I meet that person. And 9 times out of 10, I still won't until I meet that person. And that's just a maturation of growing up, becoming a grown-up. You know what I'm saying? You can't worry about what other people. Now, it can still affect you. Like, I'll be silly to say it can't affect you if somebody's just throwing dirt on your name, like the media can, or any kind of, influence outside of you in abundance can, have an effect on you. But overall, man, you doing your thing. That's going to a lot of times speak in volumes, especially when somebody comes across you, and that teaches other people as well. Like, damn, I should never listen to such and such. I'm an idiot.
Right. Well, the thing of it is,
cool, bro. You know what I'm saying? So that make you feel like an asshole. These are teaching moments for me. Yeah, that's how I take it, man.
You're one of the top 20%. I mean, you're one of the smart guys that gets it. But you're right. The problem is 80%, or that even might be a genuine. Right. I can't even say the word. That might be
it was generous. It was generous. It was definitely
generous. There it is. But you're one of the top 20%. There are a lot of people out there that are just stupid. They're followers, and unfortunately, they don't get a lot of times what happened. Now, Chris, I see that you're here also. So stay with me, Joel. Chris, I want to address you also because you've been with me. We did a big show about you on the Agape boarding school, a few weeks back. And I've loved the fact that you've become a part of the Podbean community, which is awesome. You're doing shows and you've made a lot of friends here, which I think is awesome. And I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I heard about one of the things that was happening to you. And this really, really, angered me because you were brave. You came on, you told your story about some of the things that happened to you, and then you were getting trolled because of that. So I don't know if you want to tell people. If you don't, that's okay. If not, what are your feelings about, I guess, what we've been talking about in general so far?
I'm willing to talk about it, John. I came on your show and I told my story about what happened to me at Agape, and I didn't even get it all out. There's still more. I mean, I didn't even talk about the staff members encouraging you to pee on your feet if your parents wouldn't send you stuff for athlete's foot. I didn't even get to some of the other stuff. But for someone to come in and I apologize to Cummings for this, and he said I didn't need to, and I understand why he said I didn't need to, but I got on his show and I screamed at the top of my lungs. For someone to come in there with a title, VCR's abusive teacher, I was abused at the hands of teachers. I was so mad by the time I was done with that show. I screamed on Cummings' show, and then I went and I just shut down. I didn't talk to my wife for like 4 hours. I didn't sleep in the same bed with her that night. I sat there and sobbed for like 30 minutes. It affects everybody differently. And that person didn't even know that that's what they did to me. And, you know, it's easy to say, yeah, just blow it off. They're just trolls. They're just assholes. You got to learn how to deal with them. You got to get over it. I get that, Chill Will, and I have with a lot of people. But when it's coming from social media and you don't feel like you can even stand up for yourself, like what do you say back? That's why I didn't even say anything back. I just picked the phone up and I called Cummings' show and I dealt with it over the phone, because it's like, what do you even say back when somebody hits you there? You know, you went out on international radio and put yourself out there, and somebody has the audacity to come back at you like that. You know, it was teachers that abused me. How dare you? You know, that hurts, John. It hurts.
Well, that's right. I mean, I don't care as much about what's said about me, because, you know, Chill, what you said was right on the mark. I mean, I'm a person, I have pretty thick skin, and I know who I am. And, you know, I don't like it when people disparage my name, but I do hope that when people hear things about me, they realize that that's not who I am. If they don't know that, then fuck them. There's not much I can do about that. But when I hear, you know, like Robert, who's an adult with special needs, and he's getting on doing his show, and people are getting on, they're calling him a retard, they're calling him a child molester. I mean, this poor kid, I mean, you know, he gets on, he struggles with making friends. I mean, it takes a lot for this guy to get on here, and for cowards to get on and rip it to him. And then my good friends Eric, my good friend Slightly, you know, people are getting on the show, calling him faggots, calling him gay. And, you know, I don't know, there's no need for that. But then, you know, when you hear about Chris is a hero. He's brave. He came on and spoke up for all the kids in the past that were molested at Agape. He talked about, you know, he's doing what he can to try to help people in the future. All those kids that are still there right now who have been physically abused, sexually abused, mentally abused. And for this coward to come on and hit below the belt like that and attack Chris. I mean, Chris, I heard about it because I was, you know, off the air for like a week or so, just kind of doing other things. And I heard about it. And it literally broke my heart when someone texted me and told me that had happened to you, because you were brave, you got on, and what you did is going to result in good things for the people that are there. So what you did was brave. And for any coward little pussy troll that has to come in and attack you like that, you know, and I will say that, you know, we're not going to reveal anything. We're not going to reveal anybody, but we pretty much know who the trolls are. So we've done our investigation. We know who they are. And, you know, these people have been reported to the authorities at Podbean. And, you know, again, if you want to come in and tell me my show sucks, that's fine. I don't care. I do this as a hobby. This is never going to be my living. This is supposed to be fun for me. And I enjoy seeing a lot of the friendly faces that come in. I like checking out other shows when I have the time. But if you're going to come in and start, you know, throwing racial slurs at people, calling people gay, you know, making fun of people that have been abused, I mean, you're a reprehensible, disgusting coward. And you deserve everything that comes to you in your life, which, again, right now is probably you're sitting in your parents' basement masturbating to Pornhub and creating fake names on Podbean. If that's what your existence is right now, you're getting exactly what you deserve. So, you know, that's just kind of how I feel about these people. So, Chris, how you feeling, man? You okay? Because I know that
I'm doing good now, but I tell you what, Cummings started something that I want to encourage other people to start. Now, I shared, you know, that how upset that made me, and that made me cry and all that, and that's really, really kind of personal. But I know most of the people in this room, and most of the people in this room have either been to my show or I consider them a friend.
Absolutely.
And so I'm okay with talking about such. But I would like to encourage people to do what Cummings has done, and that is to make everybody that you know an admin in your show. So Will's an admin in my show. You're an admin in my show. Because what hurt me most about that whole thing is that fucker didn't even have the guts, John, to come into my show and do it where I could boot him. He had to do it in somebody else's fucking show where I didn't have any control over the situation or anything. Well, I'll tell you what, you do that again in Cummings' show, and I'll boot you myself because I'm admin now, and then I'll talk to Cummings privately on the side and let him know that I did that and why I did. You know?
I mean, that's why you give admin, though, bro. You don't have to do that. He don't even have to do that. That's why you give admin, because you give it people that you know, you trust, and you ain't got to explain nothing like that.
Exactly. And I actually like it because when I'm running my music show, a lot of times I'm 30, 40 comments behind because I write down every single song as it comes in. I write it on a piece of paper. And so by
man.
the time I scroll, somebody could have been talking shit for 30, 40 messages, and I don't even know. I'm relying on my admin to go, fuck you, dude, get out of here. You know?
And so, and that's all you do. That's all you do, bro. Don't let, because all the energy that takes from you in your life, your child, your wife, your family, your friends, man, fuck them. You know,
It does. It does.
Fuck them.
It takes
fuck
a shit ton of energy.
Let it ride. Because you're gonna feel some kind of way. Let it ride, but let that shit go. Because at the end of the day, man, you're an awesome person, bro. And you don't let nobody take that shit away from you and from us. You know, that's the attitude everybody has to have. You know what I'm saying? And make sure you hopefully you build up enough to where you so thick skin, like fuck them. You gotta understand that, and it's the process. But bro, I'm telling you, don't let nobody take that away from, because that's your child, that's your wife, that's, you know what I'm saying. Those are people that's the most important to you. This is a motherfucker you don't even know.
Right. But when I'm upset, I separate myself from my family. But one thing I'll tell you though, when I get upset, I separate myself from my family, because I don't ever want my children to see a certain side of me. And that certain side of me was developed inside that boarding school. And I don't want my children to see that. But I will say this, ever since coming on John DeVito's show and becoming part of a Podbean family, it's really grabbed a hold of my heart and made me a more compassionate person. I've opened up a Facebook page, and since I've been able to talk about my stuff, it's made me a whole lot more compassionate towards other people. I probably have 30 or 40 friends that are other survivors now on Facebook. And I try to reach out to at least a dozen of them every day and just tell them, hey, have a good day, or you know, hey, how are things going? You know, or I mean, you post some pretty dark shit. You know, would you like to talk? Is there anything I can say? And it's kind of brought out a whole nother side of me. So I can thank Podbean for that, because, you know, it gave me a chance to get some stuff off my chest through John DeVito's show, and it opened up another side of me that I didn't really realize was there, and that's the caring and compassion side. And that's not to toot my own horn, but it makes me feel good. You know, and that's okay.
You know, it touched me a lot about your interview, because this really hit home with me. Now, I didn't go through specifically what you went through, but I grew up in a very abusive home, like a lot of people did. So I mean, I'm no one special in that. But I had a real abusive father, and it was a rough time growing up for me. And one of the reasons why, you know, I didn't get married till I was 33 years old. I had my first. Well, I didn't have my first kid. My wife did. But when I was 35, we had our first kid. I'm now 53 with 4 kids, and my youngest is still 11. One of the reasons why it took me so much time to get married is I did not want to be like my father. I did not want to be an abusive asshole as a father. And I did not know if I could not be that person. And I figured it would be better for me not to have children and not to have a wife if I was going to be like my father. And when you were talking about, you know, you have young children now and you were worried about the type of father you were going to be, that hit home with me. I get it completely, because that's what I worried about it. And, you know, am I a perfect father? Hell no. I'm sure my kids would get on right now and tell you a good half an hour story about what an asshole I could be. But I don't think I'm an abusive father. I mean, I think I'm a strict father. I have expectations. I try to set guidelines for my kids and hopefully create decent human beings. Have I made mistakes? A shit ton of them. Absolutely I have. But I'm always trying to work on being, you know, a better father. So when you were talking about that, man, it hit home. And, you know, to even take, you know, the trolling conversation back just a little bit towards, in general, social media, one of the things that I've seen, and I feel bad for a lot of the teenage kids that live out there in the world right now. I had a member, you know, of a very close member of my family was attacked and bullied on social media while in middle school, where this person was called the ugliest person in school, and it's not true, but they were called this by one little bitchy girl who made this comment, and this was then sent out to every single person in the school, where they all had this comment, and the person that I knew was crying in the room wanting to kill themselves because every kid in the school was saying how ugly they were. And then, you know, you hear things like this, and this is just so common now, where with things like, you know, Snapchat, with all these different things, all these different platforms, kids can just hide under these fake aliases. And while we're all older, and it still hurts us, imagine how tough it is when you have, you know, if you fall down in the cafeteria, you know, 500,000 people see your video on YouTube. I mean, these are young children that are just being kind of ripped apart by social media. And you've got bullies in school that can now hide behind keyboards. When I was a kid, you had a bully, you fucking punched him in the face and it was over. And that kid never bullied you again. Today, you don't know where your bullies are coming from. They can hide, they can be malicious. And it's not just one kid maybe bullying you on the bus in front of 20 kids. It's one kid that has now the ability to bully you in front of the whole world. And it's just, I think about how painful that must be, for the kids that have to deal with this shit now. And it's just, I don't know what the solution is, but bullying just is a whole new thing now where bullies can hide, and it's worldwide now. It doesn't have to be just in your town, and kids can't go home. I mean, back when you had, a bad day at school and someone gave you shit in the cafeteria at lunchtime, you could go home and be with your parents. Now, when you're home with your parents, they can still get you with Snapchat and TikTok and, Instagram and whatever else, and Facebook, whatever other platforms are being used. So I don't know what the answer is, man, but I do think that in a lot of cases, man, social media has become a problem in our society. I mean, there's a lot of good aspects of it, but there's a lot of bad shit that comes along with it too. And hey, before I get to Cummings also, please, all you guys hang around and talk. Eric, I got to ask you, what happened to your car? Are you okay? Someone hit your car while you were on the air. Are you all right? Eric Kirk, you there?
Gone.
Yeah, I'm here.
There he is.
I think it was just like a minor, fender bender. But I'm about to get a police report made for insurance purposes.
All right. Well, you just do your thing and come back when you're ready. But I'm glad to hear you're okay. Was a lot of damage to your car or not too bad?
Looks like minor damage. It looks like a trailer hitch, dented it.
Oh boy. All right. Well, just come back when you're ready. I'm glad you're okay. So sorry to hear that happen, man. So Cummings, what's up, man? Welcome to the show. And wait, hold on. Before I get to you, Chuck and Billy are in here. If you guys did not get a chance to listen to Chuck and Billy's show last night, they interviewed, what was the guy's name? Put it down in the chat. They interviewed one of the authors of a guy that wrote a book about Jack the Ripper. And man, it was a good show. This guy got on, he knew everything there was to know about Jack the Ripper and other serial killers. And I was interviewing for a while. Yeah, MP Priestley. And I was interviewing for a while, but I was driving. I had some feedback, so I got muted and had to ask us some questions through the chat. But man, what a good show that was. I'm sure you guys probably published that show. So if it's out there, check out Chuck and Billy's show and listen to the interview with this guy that wrote this book about Jack the Ripper. It was really a cool interview and a cool show. So just wanted to give you a shout out. I really enjoyed being a part of that. So Cummings, what's up, man? What are you doing?
Hey man. No, it's funny. Like you were talking about that, like how do you handle these bullies? Because not too long ago, maybe 3 months ago, I posted a video of me and my daughter on TikTok. And
I remember seeing that. Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah. This little asshole kept commenting, and he was like, it's some little kid, and he was making fun of my daughter, right? So I come back and I just start replying to this kid, and I'm like, my daughter's 6, man. You're probably like 9, 10 years old. And I was like, I'm about to show you what a real fucking bully is. So I come back at this kid and I go, yeah, your mother should have fucking swallowed. I was brutal to this kid. And so this kid's dad sends me a message and was like, hey, you fucker, why are you bullying my son? Because he goes on my Twitter page and he gets my, I've got my email posted on the Twitter because I don't give a fuck. And so I just left my phone number. I said, call me, bitch. And that's what I replied to his dad with. Well, then this dude calls me and he goes, you don't talk to my fucking son like that. I said, listen, you cocksucker. If I had your kid in front of me right now, I'd slap that little fuck like you should do. You should take your kid inside and you should take your belt off and you should beat his ass. And then I started reading his dad, what he put on there. And I said, fuck you and fuck your kid. And so this guy goes, oh man, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that he said stuff like this. And this is after he went back on there and read what his kid posted. And he calls me back and he goes, oh man, I'm so sorry. He was like, he fucking deserved it. He was like, this is the problem nowadays. We allow our kids to get on social media and we don't monitor what they're doing. And, we act like kids should have privacy. A fucking 9-year-old should not have any kind of privacy when it comes to their parents. And it was weird in the sense that, this guy actually was like, so apparently this kid went to his dad and told his dad that I was bullying him on social media, which I wasn't fucking lying about it. I mean, I was bullying this kid, but the reason for it was because I was like, I'm going to teach this kid a lesson. Like, you just can't come on here and say whatever you want to say and expect somebody not to, come back at you. But
You know,
The
those
thing-
things happened back in the day, man. I not to cut you off, but I remember a story now talking about, you know, Chill Will made this point earlier. You know, back in the day there was bullying. I was talking earlier in the show about my life growing up, how I played outside with my friends. We rode our bikes around. That's how life was when I was a kid. It's just different now, where all the kids are on Xbox, social media, whatever. But I remember one time I was over in that neighborhood where I always went. I went to my buddy Mike's house, and they were doing some type of big landscaping project. I don't remember what the fuck they were doing, but they had a giant pile of dirt. I mean, huge, like a mountain of dirt in their yard. So I was bigger than all my friends. I was a big kid growing up. So it was me, this kid Mike, this kid Dan, and the two younger brothers like Danny and Rick. So we were all hanging out. We were up on this mountain playing King of the Mountain. And of course, I was the biggest kid there. So I was King of the Mountain. I was tossing these kids off like rag dolls. But we were having fun. We weren't hurting each other. But the dad looked out his window and saw me kicking the shit out of all the other kids and tossed them down this big dirt pile. And this guy, man, he came from Canada. He was a hockey player, played in high school, played in college. Not the type of guy you want to have angry with you. He was a badass. So I remember he came out, started screaming at me, grabbed me by the shirt, was shoving me around the yard. You want to bully these kids? I'll fucking bully you. And I remember sitting there like, holy shit, dude, no. You know, I want nothing to do with you, man. And finally, the other kids were like, no, Dad, we were just playing. It's okay. He wasn't hurting us. And then at that point, he kind of apologized. But I remember he saw my dad a couple weeks later. Like, my father was a pretty tough guy too, like a military guy, you know, football guy, whatever. Kind of a tough guy. My father was worked for the government, you know, carried a gun for work, and was kind of a tough guy. He worked with people like Whitey Bulger in Boston, trying to, like, you know, track things down and everything. So kind of a rough city guy. So I remember this guy came up to my father at a baseball game and said, hey man, I don't know if your son told you, but I shoved him around a little bit, pushed him around a little bit. And, you know, I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have done that. My father was just like, fuck him. He probably deserved it. So, you know, no big deal. You know, I mean, that's kind of how it was back in the day. And what you did was kind of like what a father would have done back in my day, but just the way the world is now, the way you had to do it was through social media, because that's how the bullying happens a lot of times now. And I mean, the kids are fucking relentless when it comes to social media and the bullying. And I mean, I feel bad for the kid. And I'll tell you, man, you got a daughter. Be ready for middle school. I'm just preparing you for that right now. Middle school is not fucking easy. Be ready. The girls are vicious. They are 10,000 times worse than boys. Boys have arguments, as you know. We get a lot of men in the show right now. You get into a fight, you punch someone in the face, your best friends 20 minutes later. Man, girls are fucking brutal. And just be ready for it. protect your little girl the best you can, because it's not going to be an easy ride once she gets older and ends up in that, you know, in that grade level. So Cubbies, what's happening to you, man? You've been getting a lot of shit here on Podbean also, right? You have a great show. I mean, I know Chill Will's show. I'd like to get in the show more often. It's a good show. Chris's show. You know, Eric's like a staple here on Podbean. You're a little bit newer here on Podbean, but your show fucking rocks. So what's been happening to you? I mean, people have been after your ass also, right?
Oh, they've been after me. I mean, just being honest. I mean, but shit, man, they don't even come after me. That's the thing. Like the other day, like Chris was there, Eric was there. They weren't even coming after me. Like, they came after me for 10 minutes. And then I was like, you know, I was like, you know, they called me transphobic. Like, what the fuck? What do I care if some trans person thinks I'm trans fucking phobic? I'm not. First off, I'm not transphobic. All right, let me get that out there. A phobia means a fear. And we were talking about, you know, I don't fear no one but God. Let's just put it that way. And what they were talking about was, because the day on Monday we had a show and we were talking about the coronavirus and how the Assistant Secretary of Health took, you know, and these fuckers want to be called so many different things that you just can't you can't offend these people, and because they're ruthless. And so I was just like, you know what? I was like, hey, he took his mother, and I said, no, her mother. And I was like, oh, fuck it. We'll just say its mother, because I don't know what to call it. And so that one little comment, they came in and I was transphobic, whatever. They can kiss my ass. But the next day, dude, they didn't come after me so much as they started coming after Chris. They came after Eric. They came after James. John, they came after you.
I probably deserve it. That's all right.
Well, I mean, they was coming after everybody in the chat. Like Jess Duck never bothers anyone. Great person. Goes into a lot of people's shows. Come in under the name of Jess Duck is a lesbian. And I was like, you motherfucker, you can, and I told him on the show, come after me all day. I don't give a damn. But when it's people in the chat, I mean, come on now. These people wouldn't even say anything. Chris had no idea what was going on. Had no idea what was going on because he came into the show late and he goes, "What's going on?" And he put a question mark. And the next thing you know, they come in under the screen name VCR's abusive teacher.
Yep. Well, that's what, the show I had a week or so ago, and this had nothing to do with me taking a break. A few people, it's funny, I go away for a week and people start texting me, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine, just being lazy." But yeah, when the person came into my show with literally the screen name, it just pops up, the N-word has entered the live studio. It's like, you know what, really? I mean, you got to come in and bring that shit into my show. I don't want to see that garbage coming into my show. And it could be for anything. I mean, but that's just right away just pissed me off. And I guess they achieved their goal. They upset me, angry. They got what they wanted, so I lost that.
They went into other shows and was saying that John DeVito's bragging about being a millionaire and shit like that. I was like, the fuck are you talking about?
Oh man. Well, you know what it is? I've done some shows where I have talked about financial investing. And my wife and I are older. We've invested money, and I've done some shows trying to help people, maybe find a way to make some money in their life with the stock market and things like that. So, I guess that's bragging. But I mean, if you saw me, dude, I mean, you've never met me in person. None of you guys really have. If you saw me in town, you'd think I was homeless. I have like shorts on. I wear like dirty shoes, a disgusting coat. I literally look like I should have a sign in my hand with a pan, so it's not like I'm living the life of luxury. But yeah, you know what? I would never, like I said many, many times, I don't give a shit whether you have money, whether you don't have money. I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're gay, you're straight. I don't care where you live, where you're from, what your background is. And I really don't care politically what you are either. For me, there's two classifications in life. And the second classification I'm not even sure about. But the first is, are you a good person? If you're a good person, then you're my friend. And if you're a bad person, I don't want to say you're not my friend. And I don't even want to classify you as a bad person, but maybe I think of you as a bad person because you've been up against it in your life and you got things going against you. But for me, if you're a good person, I'm here. I would give you the shirt off my back. I would do anything to help you. If you're my friend, you're my friend. But I've got also that same thing where maybe this comes from my childhood. If you fuck me over once, I'm willing to look the other way. If it happens twice, then you're, dead in my book, as far as things go. And I probably shut people off too quickly in that way. But maybe that's just, the way I was growing up where, I give people an opportunity. But if you come after me, if you come after my family, then we're going to have a problem. And I just don't tolerate that well at all. So I don't know. If that makes me a bad person, I'm a bad person. But, so Chris, listen, I want to go back to you. You made a comment down in the chat area that you wanted to have something to say. You go for as long as you need to. I'm just going to kind of quiet down and let you speak. So go ahead, brother.
We're talking about how to battle the bullies in like the school and on the social media and that, and one thing that my wife and I have had some very serious conversations about, because I've got younger sons, John. Smokey, he is now 8 months old, and Ranger is over a year and a half now, or 2.5. So he's going to be coming up in school soon. And so we've had multiple conversations, because in the state of Washington, they have a really good curriculum that you can get for homeschooling from the state. So it's the same stuff that they're teaching in the classroom. And you say, yeah, but then you take your kid away from the social aspect of school. But not really. I don't know how it is in other states, but in the state of Washington, as long as your child is keeping the grades up, they're allowed to go to the local high school and play football with the rest of the kids and enroll in the football program or the basketball program or the whatever have you. So it's not like you are completely taking the social aspect out of the child's life, but but then you come down to the fine line of overprotection of a child. And that's kind of where my wife and I are kind of torn up right now, because there's two sides. You can overprotect a child too and damage them in that way. I've seen it happen. Take every religion believes something different. Okay. So you take Mormons, for example. They live a pretty straight life. And how many times have you ever heard that the best girl to fuck is a Mormon girl? Because they're fucking crazy, because they're so overprotected,
Never met a Mormon. Damn it.
But you know what I mean? They go to college and they just go nuts. So there is such thing as overprotection of a child. I believe in that too. But, people always are ruling out homeschooling because they're worried about, what about the social aspect? But there really is still a social aspect there.
Well, there, and
And
I can actually comment a little bit on that because my daughter actually does homeschool. You know, we have 3 of our kids go to public school, and my daughter does homeschool, and that's because what she was up against. And we, you know, she was in public school, and it got to be the point where it became unfixable. It became so detrimental to her that we had to remove her from the situation. And now she is 2 years into, and when I say homeschooling, she does it through the state public high school, which is called Tech Academy. And you know, she's very, very smart. I think sometimes that's part of her problem, where she's literally a straight A+ student in every class. So she is in her sophomore year in high school. She's got nothing lower than an A, not even an A-, but an A in all of her classes. She's written 4 novels at the age of 15. I mean, she's just so much smarter than I am. You know, my wife's a doctor. I think she's smarter than my wife. I mean, she's just got like super, super intelligence, but it makes it hard for her to relate to other kids. But the social aspect for her was becoming a problem. But now we do worry about, you know, she's a sophomore in high school, 2 more years she's going to go to college. She's probably going to get in anywhere she wants to go and hopefully get the scholarship because we can't afford, you know, Harvard or one of these expensive schools. But you know, I do worry about, you know, will she be able to live in the dorms? Will she be able to interact with the other kids in college? I don't know, because she certainly struggled in the public school. So you're right. I mean, it's a very important balance to kind of figure out the social aspect with, you know, the homeschooling and the safety. But, you know, a lot of parents homeschool. I mean, homeschool is becoming very, very popular. And I work for a company that sells educational supplies and curriculum. And homeschooling is a big, big thing now. It's a big business, and a lot of parents are choosing homeschooling over the public schools. So, you know, it's certainly something to think about for you. I know your kids are still young, but, you know, it happens quicker than you think. I could never imagine in a million years that my oldest son would be 18 going off to college in a few months, and it goes by quick. It really does. So, you know, enjoy them while they're little.
Don't let her go to the University of Alabama. That's the #1 party school in the United States.
I should have gone there.
But yeah, John, I mean, it's just something that my wife and I are tossing around and we're thinking about, you know, but like I say, we don't want to overprotect our boys, but at the same time, I've been suicidal 6 years ago. If I was on the Cummings show and somebody would have done that to me, I probably would have done it. I mean, I was to the point where I was standing on the bridge. I talked myself out of it. Okay. I said I was better than that and I could get through what I was going through. And thank God I did, because now I have children and a beautiful wife. But I'm just saying, they're throwing people in jail who are killing themselves after they go through their phone and they find out that they've been bullied and people have pushed them over the edge. They're putting people in jail for that now. So if you're a bully and you're listening to me right now, you better watch out, because there could be a consequence coming. You think it's a joke. Well, these states aren't taking it as jokes anymore when people are killing themselves because of bullies. So just know that, you know.
That's one thing that, you know, that's one thing that I never expected was my you know, one of my close relatives has been in the hospital now twice for being suicidal. I never thought we'd ever have to deal with that. And, you know, when you're a young parent, you don't expect or even think about those things coming up, but they do come up. And a lot of it is because sometimes of what other people do. So you're absolutely right. And I'm so glad you made the choice not to do it. And, you know, I fortunately have never been at the place in my life where I wanted to, I guess, end, you know, my life, but I have had times where I've been, you know, very depressed and very unhappy. And it's certainly a very difficult thing to bounce back from. But you're right. When you're in a very fragile state, I mean, one small comment can be the one thing that pushes you over the edge. And you're right. I think the bullying is a very, very big part of it. And, you know, states should crack down on these type of things, because if you're literally driving someone to the point where they want to die, and I've seen it, you know, firsthand here, and I really can't talk about it because it's too personal to my family. And I've had family members be very clear to me that, you know, people do listen to my podcast and I need to keep my mouth shut with family things. So I try to do that, but I've seen it very personally in my life. And you do need to protect your children. And I'll say this on another thing, and I can't be specific. Maybe sometime, Chris, you and I could talk off the air. But
yeah,
if you have, and I'll reveal some personal stuff to you off the air. But if you feel the need to protect your children, because I do know that sometimes if your gut is telling you a certain thing, you need to go by your gut and not believe that everybody's good, because bad things do happen with even people you do trust. So you need to be very, very careful with your children and protect them every step of the way. And, you know, you really have to watch out for them, because there are people who may even be close to you that you can't trust. And you certainly don't want to find that out, the wrong way. So at some point, you and I
Right.
will take the phone and we get to chat a little bit about, some of my experience personally, so I can kind of tell you about that, But
Right.
anyway,
And
so
like Cummings just commented, and so this just backs up what I'm saying. People, you better be listening. Cummings just commented, especially Alabama, California, Washington State, New Hampshire, and Florida. You bully people in those states, and they do something or try to do something to themselves. You're looking at charges possibly.
Yep.
So just and I think those charges are just. I really do. I try to say good morning to everybody. If I'm walking through, I go to Lowe's almost every morning for my work, and I try to say good morning to everybody I pass. And people think, yeah, that's just a crazy guy who says good morning to everybody. But you know what? You don't know what's going on in that person's life. And that one good morning might be the only one they hear. And it also might be the only thing that made their day.
you're right. I've told this story a little bit on the air, I think maybe once or twice, and I even said it in the car last night when I was driving with my kids. I had something that happened to me right before Christmas that it still just kind of chills me. I've never had this feeling before. I've never had an experience like this before. Now, in the city near me, like I live in Massachusetts, and I live about an hour and 15 minutes west of Boston. I'm right near another city in Massachusetts called Worcester, Worcester. It's the second biggest city in the state. And a lot of times it's a forgotten city because it's, Boston, everyone thinks of that. But, it's a decent city, but you have a lot of homeless people in the city. So I'm in this city almost every day. That's where my kids play baseball, whatever else. So I drive into the city often, and there's a ton of homeless people, out with their signs. And right before Christmas, I try not to give money to homeless people because a lot of times I feel that maybe the money's going to go to drugs or alcohol or whatever else.
Yes.
One day I'm sitting at this red light, and I looked at this woman. She was dirty, and her clothes were ripped, and she was sitting there with all of her stuff with a shopping cart, and for whatever reason, it just hit me. So I pulled up next to her, and I kind of like glanced at her a little bit, and I didn't really make eye contact, but I rolled down my window and I pulled out a $20 bill, and I just stuck it out the window and didn't look at her. So she literally grabbed my hand and pulled it towards her. So I turned and looked at her like, why is she pulling my hand? She looked with her blue eyes, piercing blue eyes, right into my eyes, and just said, "Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me. God bless you." And I swear to God, this woman stared into my soul, and I felt it throughout my entire body. To now, we're 2 months later, and I'm still thinking about this woman. And again, I don't know what she did with the money. Maybe she went and bought vodka or drugs. I have no idea. But I mean, man, I have never had that feeling where she literally grabbed my hand and pulled it towards her and forced me to look into her eyes and then said that to me. And man, I'll tell you, that is a feeling that I've never had before. And it was just undescribable. So I don't know. But you're right. Your point is where I think sometimes saying hello to people, being kind to people, buy someone's coffee for them, hold the door for them, do whatever you feel like you need to do to, number one, feel good about yourself, but also do what you think might help other people to make them feel good. Because you're right. I think sometimes giving someone a smile and a hello, it might not mean that much to you, but that may have meant the world to the person that you said it to. And it may have made that difference in their life that particular day where they felt like, nobody was in their corner, nobody cared about them. But look at this guy. He just said hello to me and gave me a big smile. Boy, people do notice me. People do care. And it's a very powerful thing, even though it's a very small gesture. So, kudos to you for doing stuff like that. And, I'm very happy for you also, Chris. I think about you a lot. And it sounds like you're really doing well here in Podbean. You're doing well with your social media. And, it looks like what your purpose is, you had that fear a little bit about having young children. But man, what are you doing now? You're turning things to the point where you're helping other people. You're making difference in the lives of others. You're being there and you're being supportive for other kids at Agape who have maybe been through the same things you're doing. You're making a difference, man. You're doing God's work and you're doing an amazing thing. So, I mean, take a good look in the mirror tonight or this afternoon or whatever and be proud of who you are. And I have no doubt that you're going to continue to be, a great husband, a great father, and your kids are going to grow up with an amazing role model, and I'm happy for you, man. I really am.
To go on your homeless thing, it was a couple of years ago now, but there's and I appreciate the comments, John. I'm glad that it doesn't go unnoticed. But there's a homeless man in my local area that rides around in a wheelchair. And he was sitting by the McDonald's one day. And I went in and I got him 2 McChicken sandwiches. And I got my meal and I put my meal in my truck and I walked over and handed it to him. And the guy, he started crying.
Did he really?
John, he started crying. And I gave him the 2 sandwiches. And before I could make it back to my truck, I got in my truck and I looked back at the dude. One of the sandwiches was gone. He was already started on the second one. His beard was covered in mayonnaise. And I'm just thinking to myself, when was the last time this guy actually ate, and why hasn't anybody helped him? And I'll tell you why anybody hasn't helped him. For the same reason I'm guilty, just like you. I pass homeless people all the time and don't give them anything. And it's not because I don't have the means to, because I do.
Right.
But it's because what's $20 here or $20 there? You know, I'm employed. So it's really not that big of a deal. It's like the saying good morning in the morning. What effort did that take me? It took me nothing. I was probably walking through Lowe's talking to myself anyways. So, you know, but it's just like we all have this mentality that, you know, don't give any money to them because they're just going to run out and buy a bottle of Thunderbird wine, which 90% of them probably will. Okay. But when you find that one that just is so appreciative, you know you've helped someone. Like you know, when you walk away from that situation, I helped somebody who was actually in need. And yeah, that's a good feeling for you, but at the same time, when was the last time that guy ate?
Right, it's true.
You know?
And, you know, I like your comment about the food. And I don't know if anyone saw Light Bright's comment in the chat, but she was mentioning also she puts together care packages, which I think is an amazing idea. You know, I actually got a box today, a care package from a colleague who I work with, because we have a big national sales meeting for my company this week. Normally we would go someplace. Last year I was in California. This year it's going to be on Zoom, of course. So it was kind of cute. She sent me a big box care package, and she sent it to all the people that are going to be on this meeting, because we're going to be on Zoom literally like all day, all week. So probably not too many shows this week coming up, but she sent this care package. And it was so nice, and it was just a cute idea, and I really appreciated that she sent that. So I kind of texted her right away this morning thanking her. But, you know, Light Bright, that's a great idea to actually put together care packages, you know, for you, Chris, to go out and give food to someone that really needs it. You know, one thing that I'm going to do with my family that we have not done enough of, and we're going to do more of it. We were actually going to do it a couple of weeks ago, but then we were afraid of getting COVID, because my son Matt is actually going to be in that movie the day after tomorrow. So we're super excited about that. We don't want anyone to get COVID and prevent him from getting into the movie. It's such a big thing for him. But we're gonna start working. There are a couple of places in Worcester, Mass, where they have places that feed the homeless, and you can book during the week. You can book on the weekends. They always need volunteers on a regular basis. We're gonna start going in and serving meals to people that are struggling. So not only, you know, are we doing something good for these people, but, you know, my children have grown up very fortunate, and I want them to see that there's another side of the world out there, and there are people that need help. And I want them to also feel that feeling inside when you do something nice for somebody else, how it makes you feel inside. And in my opinion, when you do something nice for somebody else, that feels better than going out and buying a nice car or buying something for yourself, because you're doing something that's making a difference. You're making the world a better place. And I want to make sure that we're giving our children that gift also, because I don't know if we've done a good enough job of that yet. So I think that's something as a parent that I need to improve on. So that's something we're going to really start doing a lot more, you know, coming up soon. So I wasn't really looking at the chat. I'm going to look down really quickly. I see Cummings.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that, John, because
Pastor
even
Cummings is
this
ready.
year,
Now, Cummings, you were getting McChickens when you started. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, even this year, John, I took my 2-year-old up the street, and the local radio station does a collection for toys for children. And I made him go into the store with me, and I let him pick out a toy, and then I made him go give the toy away, even at 2 years old, because we need to teach our children to be givers, not takers. And but not givers to the point that people take advantage of you. You have to know where the fine line is. And I've been taken advantage of multiple times because I haven't been able to find that fine line. There is a fine line that you got to find if you want to be a helper, to where people don't take advantage of you, but you're still accomplishing your mission of helping people. And I think it starts at a young age. Like you said, your kids, you got to teach your kids to be givers, not takers. You know,
you're right. Because you have to teach it. If you don't teach it, then they're never going to understand that. And you can preach it, you can talk about it, but you actually have to physically have them do it. And I see Unity's comment in there, our 3 objectives. Her objectives are, she works a lot with, you know, people who are struggling, is prevent suicide, reduce violence, and eliminate poverty. And for the new people coming in to the show, we've been on for about an hour and 15 minutes. And the way this conversation started is, we were talking about how technology has changed the world. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I was talking about, when I was young, when my father was young, kids played outside. They weren't on Xbox. They didn't have social media. They couldn't bully people via social media. So the show has kind of naturally morphed into some of the things we're talking about now. We've talked about, some of the trolling on Podbean. We've talked about some of the bullying on social media. Has technology made life better or worse? And that kind of naturally morphed into, some of the things we've dealt with in our lives when it comes to bullying, maybe being abused. And then we kind of started talking about people who are really struggling in this world, like the homeless right now is where we're at. So I see, let's see, Light Bright said Monday, I'm going to be working in the kitchen at the Salvation Army. Me and one of my friends are doing it together. Volunteering is my jam. See, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I see Naida said we have two extremes. You're right. One, the very wealthy, and two, the very poor. You are right. And, we've talked about this stuff, and I'm getting away from politics for a while. I'm kind of sick of talking about it. But, I mean, this is something we kind of talked about a little bit, where I think that's kind of the division we have in this country right now is you have the very wealthy, you have the poor. The middle class has almost disappeared to a point, and you don't really even have much of a middle class anymore. And it's unfortunate because, a good working class is very important. I mean, it's important so people have self-esteem, as an adult where you can go out and provide for your family. Children are learning a good work ethic from their parents. And, when that middle class disappears and you have either the very wealthy or the very poor who are dependent on government, then you kind of lose all that self-esteem that you gain from having jobs and working hard and doing all those different things. So, yeah, that very good point you guys are bringing into the chat. If anybody else wants to call in, we'll welcome anybody who wants to call. Join the panel and give us your opinion. We'd love to hear from you. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, you were talking about like the middle class, that if without the middle class, how would the government be able to collect their tax revenue and stuff?
That's true. I mean, the tax revenue is important. And again,
because it's usually the middle class that's footing the bill. Are they not?
Call in. We'd love to have you, Naida. If you're available, call in. We'd love to hear you talk.
Yeah.
If you're available, call right in. We certainly give you the microphone and let you go. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. I may have to block my microphone for a second. Hold on. Wow, that was like multiple sneezing. Good thing I blocked it. I don't know if you guys heard me or not, but man, that was nasty.
Nope.
So, Eric, what happened with you? Thank you. What happened with your car accident? Are you okay? Was the car really?
Yeah, I mean, there were no injuries. I think, I didn't see a truck like backing out of a parking space and the trailer hitch, just dented the back bumper where it, connects to the fender.
But did they say whose fault it was? Did they blame you?
I mean, it was on private property, so no citations were given. But I've just got to collect like a police report and read over it to see where I go from there.
Yeah, that happened to my wife once. One time my wife was in I think like a grocery store parking lot, and she opened her door, and when she opened it, a car pulled right into the spot next to her and hit her door and did a lot of damage. I think, unfortunately, what happened in that instance was both insurance companies had to pay for their own damage. So, because it was private property, the police could not really assess blame. I remember that happening.
Yeah.
It was kind of frustrating.
I think the only way police could assess blame is if it happened out on the road or if it happened on government property.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating. Well, I'm glad to hear you're okay, and damage to a car. Well,
it looked only to be minor, but the car's still drivable, though.
That's good. Well, what I did this year? Remember, I'm sure you guys, some of you remember, my midlife crisis mobile. I went out and bought an old Corvette in August. So I got a 2004, not 2014, 2004 convertible black Corvette. Bought it for very little money. It's got low mileage on it. It's in decent shape. It's just something to cruise around in. And it definitely wasn't expensive. But literally in the first 2 weeks I had it, I went to pull into the garage, and I hit the garage with the front right corner and smashed in the whole front right bumper of the car. So my wife comes home, and she sees it. She goes, "Oh, what happened to your baby?" I'm like, "I know. I pulled into the garage, damaged the whole front end, so I had to pay for that." And that was a little frustrating. But
I think... And before you went live today, I noticed, like on Twitter, our good friend Project America, had posted some like fleet messages on Twitter, and I let him know that you're going on live today, unless he had something come up. But I guess in case he missed coming in your show today, hopefully he'll come back for your next show.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll probably do one again tomorrow. I might do a music show this afternoon because I like chilling to music, and I know that going to be doing an all-day music show tomorrow, which is pretty sweet. So I'm going to let you join into that.
Well, I know, and in case you or anybody missed it, of course, I know Slightly Serious wound up taking hiatus 2 nights in a row, but I think he would have had a show last night, but I think he had an emergency of sorts come up, but hopefully things are all right, and that he might be where he could do an impromptu show this weekend, and I know he'll be back Monday at his normal time.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I mean, I'm glad he's doing so well with his podcast and everything, and he's a good guy. So hopefully everything's okay with his life. And, now that you mentioned that, Cummings, I want to give you a chance if you're able to talk. Now, you were telling me a little bit about CultureCast, which may be happening soon. So do you want to tell everybody, because I publish this out, and I get quite a few downloads of my show. Do you want to publish or talk about your CultureCast that might be coming up soon and tease people with some information on that?
Yeah, CultureCast is it's gonna, we'll have to start on your basic live streaming channels like YouTube and what have you, but we won't be over on Twitch. That's one of the things we're not gonna do. But what it's gonna do is gonna be, what we're working towards is getting an actual channel on YouTube TV, Hulu Plus, what all these streaming providers. And the reason we're doing it and how we're doing it is, say John DeVito wanted a show on CultureCast. Well, John DeVito owns his show, but all he does is give us the rights to broadcast his show with video. That's it. And what we're doing is we're taking podcasters who we think are good and not even podcasters in some sense. We're looking at people that are not even they've been in the entertainment business, but they're good at just a show. We're talking comedy. One of the things that we're doing, we've talked to the local city. There's an old historic theater that's not being used that the city's renovated. With some of the equipment that we'll have to buy, we'll be able to get a comedian, some kind of music artist, some sort of show, and we'll make money by getting the tickets, because we'll make money off ticket sales. But of course, we'll have to pay our talent for that night. But we'll also have the video rights, so we can video and broadcast that show while it's live right then, and you'll be able to sit in the comfort of your home and watch it, and you won't have to pay a dime. You won't have to pay a dime for it, even when it goes on. Even if we can get it on YouTube TV or Hulu or what have you. If you already have one of those services, you won't have to pay one dime extra to get us.
So I'll tell you, I'm excited to hear about him. You were telling me a little bit about this yesterday as I was coming back from my dad's house. He and I talked on the phone, and definitely of interest to me. So I'm kind of looking forward to see how this thing develops. And who knows? Maybe if the John DeVito show is got something you're looking for, maybe we'll join on to what you're doing. But now let me ask you a question. Now, this is very important to me, and I'm sure everybody wants to know this. Now, if there's a video, if there's a video aspect of this show, can you make me, say, 20 pounds thinner, put hair on my head, and maybe make me a little bit more attractive? Is there anything you can do? Because otherwise I might scare the hell out of people if they actually see my ugly mug close up,
Well, do you?
He's a show producer, not a miracle worker.
Oh no! Listen. We have a guy. We have a guy that's a good friend of mine. He's really smart in these computers and all this shit. Don't put anything past him, because he probably could edit in hair on it.
Oh, that's gonna be kind of funny. You people will be looking and be like, "That's amazing! Look at that! Look at John DeVito talking in that show. I didn't realize how much you look like Brad Pitt. He looks just like him." Right? So people, be ready. That's what we got coming at you. But so anyway, it's exciting to hear about CultureCast. I think that could be a good thing. And I want to also just get back really quickly. We got some new people coming in. I like to hear what Lady Me thinks, because I know they saw the title of the show. Yeah. We've been talking a lot about, is modern technology a good thing? I was talking earlier about my childhood, growing up in New Hampshire, playing outside with kids. Things have changed a lot for kids in the way they interact with other kids now. The days of riding your bikes around the neighborhoods, ringing doorbells, playing with other friends, that's almost non-existent. And it was kind of cool though this summer, I don't know why this happened or how it even happened, but my youngest son developed his little bicycle posse gang in our neighborhood. And you don't see this too much anymore, but it was him, his buddy from across the street, and then two girls. And then sometimes another guy that lives in another neighborhood would actually come over and they'd all get together, and it was so cute to watch these 10 and 11-year-olds riding around the neighborhood on their bikes, going into the woods, getting into trouble, and they would come into the house, and see me here and there, and it was just funny to see them going out and kind of living a little bit like I did as a kid. But to me, like we talked about earlier, to the new people coming in, I think technology has taken away a lot of that from our children, and it's almost cheated them out of having a childhood. And it's not just the technology either, because another thing. I mean, you'll probably see this, Chris, as your kids get a little bit older, is sports and activities have taken over children's lives. It seems like now, for whatever reason, parents think that if you start your child playing baseball when he's 2 years old, then that's a definite that he's going to make it to the major leagues. So you can get him in training. I mean, I see kids now that are in elementary school that are already going to like weight training. They're going to speed training. They're going to practice 3-4 times a week. They're working with personal coaches to make them, better athletes. Now, for me, I've tried to let our kids develop a little bit into some of the things they want to do. Like my oldest son, Matt, has autism. He played recreational sport when he was young, and that really wasn't his thing. So he stopped playing sports at a certain point, which was fine with me. He eventually started boxing because he watched the movie Rocky and really liked boxing, and now he's an actor. So Matt has been in 10 plays, as I've talked about. As you can tell, I'm very proud of him. And on Monday, not tomorrow, but Monday, he's going to be in his first movie. He's going to be on set with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. Look for it on Netflix. It's going to be called Don't Look Up. It's a movie about, I guess, an asteroid or whatever. And they've discovered it. They're like amateur, astronomers. There's probably been 20 of those types of movies, but it's going to be on Netflix, and Matt's going to be in it. So, we haven't pushed him. He's kind of found his way. My daughter, Caitlin, for a while, she got into travel softball, and eventually for her, it became too much. She didn't like the year-round practices. My two youngest sons, they do travel baseball. They play baseball all the time. I mean, literally, even during the winter, they have 2 practices a week indoors. They work with a hitting coach. They work with a catching coach. And I ask them constantly, is this what you want to be doing? If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But they both love it, and they want to be good baseball players. But my point is, I'm starting to wonder, as parents, are we doing the right thing? The kids, when they're home, they're in front of the Xbox. They're not playing with friends. They literally have no down social time to ride around and do the things we did, like freestyle playing. If they're not home doing their schoolwork or on Xbox, then they're out playing travel sports, playing 70 games a year, working with strength coaches. And that's really the only time they're spending with friends. So I don't know how we got to this place in today's society where things have become so different. I mean, we all want our kids to be the next Tom Brady, I guess, or the next David Ortiz, or the next, LeBron James, or whoever. But I mean, the facts of it are that, there's only going to be a 1 in a million of each of those type of players. And a lot of it comes down to natural ability. It's not, you can't create something that isn't there. So, the world has changed a lot. Technology is part of it, but I think it's also parents being more of helicopter parents, where they're out, controlling every kid's moves. They don't want them out playing by themselves because they might get abducted. They have to set up play dates. They have to do all these different things, and the kids don't have the flexibility, and they aren't learning, leadership skills and things like that because they're not out living the way we used to live. And I hear stories all the time about kids now who are in college who have to still call their parents to get help with their advisors and their teachers, and they can't negotiate anything on their own. And, for us here, one of the things we try to do is, even in like middle school, we're having our kids, if our kids get like a bad grade, or if they get a docked, like a late fee for, having their homework in late, we have our kids reach out to the teachers on their own, because we're trying to teach them to advocate for themselves. But we just don't see a lot of that in society today. So I don't know. It's just kind of crazy. I haven't been looking at the comments. I'm going to look at them. But I don't know, Chris, I mean, what do you think about all that? I don't know if you grew up in the era of travel sports and all that stuff, but it's just so crazy right now and so prevalent in society.
When I was growing up, I played baseball. I was just big into baseball until my parents shipped me off. And I played drums. I was playing drums with the high school seniors when I was in the 6th grade, because that's where they did their 0-hour jazz band, was at my middle school. And I would go to school with my brother, and he was older than me. So I got to play with the high schoolers. Just because I'm into those things doesn't mean my children will be into those things. And my wife and I talk about that all the time too, because she was into trumpet and into basketball. We're going to let our children pick their own way. If they want to play football, they can play football. If they want to do music, they can do music. We're not going to try to direct them one way or the other. But what we will do is if you enroll in something, if you're in school and you enroll in basketball, you will play that entire season. We will not quit. Now, next year, if you don't want to play, that's fine. But we're not going to be quitters either. If you enroll, you're in it for the long haul from start to finish. But then again, you got those kids that just wrap themselves completely up into a sport, which can be bad too. So I was more of the kid that was out on my bike riding all over town, and not really giving too much of a shit about sports other than when it came to baseball. So
that's kind of how we're a big baseball family. You know, my father was a very good baseball player. I played as well, and I was a good baseball player. I chose football over baseball. One of the biggest regrets I made in my life. I wish I could go back and change that decision. I was a left-handed hitting catcher, and I could hit. And I was 6'4", 240 when I graduated high school, so I had some size behind me. But I ended up playing football instead. I got a scholarship to college for that, which was good because my parents weren't rich. But I mean, my boys started playing football. I'd rather see them not play football. It's a violent sport. You get injured too much. They love baseball, and they do a lot. And I constantly check in with them. If you don't want to do this, I don't want this to be Dad's dream. This has to be your dream. We can pull the plug anytime. But I do worry that they're going to get burnt out because now my son, Ethan, who's going to be 14 this year, he plays on the big field now. He's a very good baseball player. He went to one of those showcases last year, a baseball showcase, and he wasn't supposed to go. He was in 8th grade. It was for high school kids, but he ranked as it would have been the 6th best player in all of New England, being a year early. So I think next year we will see him probably in the top 5 in New England as baseball prospects. He's a catcher. He hits the hell out of the ball. And my younger son's very good as well. He hasn't moved up to the big field yet, so we'll see how things go for him when he does that. But it's got to be his dream, and I do worry that he pushes himself too much because I don't want him to get burnt out. But they're saying this year he may play close to 100 games at the age of 14 for this travel team that he's on. Like Memorial Day weekend, we're traveling to New York. We're going to be all over the place, and we'll do it. I mean, if this is his dream, and if he wants to take a shot at playing in college and playing beyond, then we're going to try to help him. But you're right. I mean, it's got to be one of those things where it has to be his dream. It can't be our dream. Because you're right, just like you said, just because you love baseball doesn't mean your boys are going to like baseball. And we found that out with the first son. My first son, he had no interest in baseball, didn't like it. He played, it wasn't for him, and that was okay. It kind of broke my heart a little bit, but he has found what he loves, and now that he does theater and he does acting, I love watching him do that. I go to his play, and I'm one of the proudest people in there because he does so well, and I could never do what he does, and it just amazes me that he's good at it. And I think you find that as a parent. That no matter what your kids do, if you let them do what they really want to, what they love doing, and they enjoy doing it, and they end up being, good at it, that gives you as much pleasure as whether or not they're just following in your footsteps as something you did. You
were bringing up football.
Yeah, you were a football player too, right?
Oh yeah. If I had it to go over again, I'd have been a fucking cheerleader.
I'll tell you, I see your point there. You're making some sense to me. Now, why would you be a cheerleader instead of a football player? I'd like to hear it from your perspective.
Well, I'm 28 years old, and they believe already that I have early stages of CTE, but they can't diagnose me till I'm dead. It's violent. Every time you get hit, it's a car wreck. Yep. You got to be extremely tough to play it. I mean, if you don't have big, thick bones, you're going to get hurt a lot.
You are.
I played everything, man.
Mike from Tampa Bay said pom-poms, so I'm not sure if that's why you wanted to be a cheerleader, but I saw that comment. I had to make it down there. But no, I agree. I mean, man, I was a defensive tackle for 11 years. I played through middle school, through high school. I got a scholarship to college. I played a defensive tackle in college. And there's no doubt. I mean, I can't even imagine how many times I was hit in the head over the course of that time. I mean, tens of thousands of times. And I have no doubt. I mean, I had concussions. And back in my day, there was no concussion protocol. The concussion protocol was pretty simple back then. You get hit, you got knocked out, and once they brought you back, they would say to you, "What's your name?" And if you said John DeVito, good news, get back in there. You got your bell rung. You're okay. So that was the concussion protocol back in the day.
But that was the way it was up to 10 years ago, John.
Right.
I mean, this new concussion protocol didn't come around until 4 or 5 years ago.
Pretty much. And you have those NFL players. I mean, you had the guy that played for the Patriots there. You remember Junior Seau? He played for the Chargers for a long time, and he took a gun shot himself in the chest and killed himself because he wanted to preserve his brain so they could study his brain for CTE. So this poor guy he was a great, great, great football player. I mean, one of the best linebackers probably in the history of the game, right up there with Lawrence Taylor, Dick Butkus, all those guys, and committed suicide. He couldn't take, the issues he had with CTE after playing in the NFL for all those years. And the sad thing is the NFL knew that there was a danger, and the NFL knew that these players were in danger for having this happen, and no one did anything to stop it, unfortunately. So let's see. Look at Mike. Mike from Tampa Bay is doing a little cheer down there. So maybe Cummings, maybe you can read that off. Look down at the chat.
Oh my God! No, I'm not reading that off. But hey, man, no kidding. Like I've been hit so hard before that blood would be coming out of my nose, and then you'd go, and I didn't even get hit in the nose. That was the thing. You get hit so hard that you have blood coming out of your nose, and then you get over there, they're like, oh, you got a busted. No, that was your freaking brain bleeding is what we're finding out now. And it's just like, 10 years ago, man, there's no, but I'm telling you, if I had it to go over again and I had a son and right now, if my son came to me and said, Dad, I don't want to play football. Good. I don't want you to play either.
All right. I can't just leave that there. So I'm going to do it. Hold on. Ready? Here we go. Give me a C. Go on. You. Give me an M. Give me another M. Give me an I. Give me an N. Give me a G. Give me an S. Where's that spell? Cummings. And there he is. Cummings.
Mike Tampa Bay's a good friend.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Cummings, I love you. All right. You're a good guy. You're my buddy from Alabama. You're the Confederate. I'm the Yankee. I get it. But we get along. You're younger than I am. But I've seen pictures of you, man. You would be one ugly fucking cheerleader if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
That big beard, man. I don't know.
I didn't get the beard. This is my thing, though. Like, a lot of people think that, he grew the beard because it looks good on him or because he's fat and he's trying to hide it a double chin. No, it's got nothing to do with that. Dude, just being honest, when I got married, I can't wear a wedding ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out the old Hebrew thing was like when a man gets married, they would grow a beard because they didn't believe in the wedding rings because that was
is that why they do that? I didn't know that. Is that why they do that? I didn't realize that. Huh.
So I grew my beard out and I've just kept it.
I like the beard. Every year I have like an intention to grow a beard, and I try to grow it, and I last about 2 weeks before it gets itchy. It irritates me. I look in the mirror and I don't like it, and I shave it. Now, I would never have the commitment that you had to grow that beard, but I wish I could do it. I just can't do it.
You can do it. You can do it. You got to go buy this stuff. It's called Cremo.
Cremo?
Yeah, and you just rub it on your face. It's like a moisturizer for your face, and just rub it on your face when it starts getting itchy, and it'll stop the itching, and then it'll just let it grow. You just put it on there every day after you shower, whatever, and it smells really, really good.
Well, no, I hope you don't shave the beard because I think that's kind of like your trademark. I think I was talking to you maybe a week or two ago, and you were talking about shaving that beard. You got to keep it, man. That's your trademark. But
I trimmed it.
But but right now, see, I'm a very visual person, and I'm envisioning you in the cheerleading outfit, and that is doing me no good right now. So I've got to change the subject and start talking about something else.
With the gut hanging out the bottom.
Exactly. Oh, man. So, Chris, you're still with us up there, brother. So what do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think Cummings will make an attractive cheerleader?
Well, about that. And that's all I've got to say about that.
I can help you. Here you go.
Oh, hell no.
All right, there we go. So, Eric, how about you, man? Cummings is a cheerleader. What do you think?
I would probably say no comment on that, but hey, I went to school with a couple of people, three guys who were like cheerleaders, but they were really like slim build and athletic.
Wait a minute now. A couple weeks ago, I was see Frankie D's in here right now. And a couple weeks ago, we had that young lady in the show that we were trying to set up with Frankie D because he's a young guy. She was a young girl looking for a love connection. And what better place than to come to Podbean to look for a love connection? But, we got Frankie D in here. So maybe Frankie D can kind of give us his opinion on, Cummings, he's pretty hot to me. So maybe we get a love connection happening. It could be a Frankie D Cummings' culture match made in heaven. We never know, so we'll have to look.
The D. I got a feeling that D ain't for his last name now.
All right, I got to bring this. Listen, this is how my mind went. This is my ADD working. I see Frankie D. I think New Jersey. I thought of New Jersey Shore, and that made me think of Ariana Grande. Okay, I don't know why my mind went that way, but that's the way it went. So, have anybody looked at the lyrics from 34 plus 35, that song?
I have no idea what that
Haven't
No.
heard of that song.
Look it up. Look it up. I've my kids like Hits One on Sirius XM radio, and they play that song like literally like every 7 minutes. So 34 plus 35 obviously means 69. But when I looked up the lyrics because my daughter was saying to me, do you know what she's singing? I'm like, no, not really. I can't really make it out. I looked up the lyrics last night. Holy shit. That is like an X-rated Pornhub style song that she is singing. And you get all these little girls are singing this shit right now. And it is a nasty song.
I've got a feeling John DeVito's never heard WAP.
Never heard. No, I haven't. What's that?
Oh, WAP stands for wet ass pussy.
Oh, okay. I know that. Well, I know the other name. WAP also, without papers, kind of a derogatory term for Italian people. So I know that one also. Yeah, I have heard that term. Hey, who's that? We got Mohsen. I don't know how to say that. Mohsen Salahi. I like that name. Where are you from, Mohsen? Kind of a cool name. I like that. I'm guessing not from New Hampshire, Massachusetts is my first guess. I'm going to go on a limb. But I'm glad you stopped in, Frankie. I got to get into Frankie D show more often. Hey, for the people that are in here, if you haven't been in to Frankie D show, excellent show, great, talented young guy. We're going to see him someday, and we're all going to hope he remembers us when he goes big, from his podcast. You're from Iran. That is so cool. That's one of the things I love about Podbean. You get people coming in from Iran, Iraq, wherever else, and governments can try to separate people and make people feel like that, we don't like each other and things like that. But I'd say that some of the best people that have come into my show have been from Iran, from India. And I got to tell you, Mohsen, from all the people in here who are from the United States of America, we love our brothers in Iran, and no government propaganda is going to change that. So welcome to the show. We're glad you joined us. If you have any questions, feel free to put that in the chat down below. And thanks for coming, man. And make sure you follow me and come back again. So let's see. Cummings is Culture. He says, John, you want to hear who I got next week? Absolutely. Let's go. Let's hear it.
All right. I've got Hal Makovitz that wrote the book Painting the White House. It's a book, but it goes on and it tells you about weird things that U.S. presidents done while they were in the White House, like George H.W. Bush took a shower with his dog. And he took showers with his dog every time he took a shower. And there was I think it was I can't remember which first lady it was, but she would only do her press conferences in her negligee.
Mr. A, I'm sorry. Look at Mr. A's comment.
Oh my God.
We got a Grande song. He says, I don't do 69, I 68 and I owe her one. That's a good one. I like that. Oh my God.
Ew.
Oh, sorry. There's my daughter with her ew. So go ahead, Cummings. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. And then next week I got Mark Russin or something like that. I got to look that guy's name up, but he was ATF agent for Waco. Like he was the one who briefed Clinton on Waco. He protects several U.S. presidents and wrote a couple books and stuff like that. And then at the end of the month, I got the most interesting interview I've ever fucking done.
You didn't set anything up with me. You're interviewing me?
Oh, no, we already did that. We can do it again.
Yeah, I'm boring.
The most interesting interview I've ever done. We have, God, man, I can't remember her name. Her last name's Lentz. She was the first ever female Secret Service agent in American history.
That's cool. How'd you get her?
Oh, wow.
Interview.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
She was the first ever female Secret Service agent in American history, and she served. She started under Obama, and I think she went all the way up to Trump. And I think she just retired when Trump came out of office. So that's going to be interesting. And then I got somebody working on somebody I know, like here locally, like this dude's loaded, but he knows a lot of people. He's working on getting me the guy who was the pilot for Air Force One during 9/11.
Oh my God. I was just talking about Ariana Grande. And I'm sorry I got distracted there. My 11-year-old son just came up to me with his phone and showed me the lyrics. So I'm not going to read them on the air, but I'm very proud that my 11-year-old son can look up these disgusting lyrics.
Right.
Thank you. I know. Put it away. Don't read that. That's nasty. I know. Show it to mom. She's going to be horrified the next time she listens to that song. But that's cool, man. Did I tell you guys? I don't know who I told you. If I told who wrote me back, which I'm kind of excited about. One thing I've been getting away from a little bit is I've been doing so many political podcasts, which I'm quite frankly sick of. That's why I've been taking some time off, during the week, also thinking about what direction I want my show to go in and what topics I want to talk about. But what some of the things I'm really interested in, some of the serial killer podcasts, some of the horror movie podcasts and things like that. So Chuck gave me an idea when he did last night his show on Jack the Ripper. He had a guy that wrote a book on Jack the Ripper. It was an excellent podcast. I really enjoyed being on that. So that made me think about, my favorite serial killer, which is kind of a scary thing to think about, is probably a guy that grew up in New Hampshire. My family and I drove by his house a couple summers ago to see where he lived as a young boy, but H.H. Holmes, I've talked about him. He was like the first well-known American serial killer who they reported killed over 200 people. So there was a guy a couple years ago by the name of Jeff Mudgett. And Jeff Mudgett had like a documentary series on History Channel, maybe. I can't remember where it was. But Jeff Mudgett was his great-great-grandson. And he did a whole documentary. And he was trying to prove that H.H. Holmes was actually Jack the Ripper, because he was an American serial killer that had a horror hotel that he built in Chicago where he killed tons of people that were coming for the Chicago Fair every year. But then he would also take trips to London. And a lot of times when the travel log showed that this guy was traveling to London, that's when a lot of the murders in London happened that were attributed to Jack the Ripper. So this guy tried to prove that his great-great-grandfather was actually Jack the Ripper, in addition to being H.H. Holmes. Now, H.H. Holmes' original name was Herman Mudgett. So this guy's name is Jeff Mudgett, his great-great-grandson. So I actually sent him a message, and he wrote me back saying he'd be interested in coming onto my podcast to talk about H.H. Holmes and the potential correlation between him and Jack the Ripper, and talk about this guy, being his great-great-grandfather, which I'm really excited about. So I haven't set that up yet, but I'm hoping that happens, because it's a cool story. It'll be really cool to hear from, the most notorious serial killer's great-great-grandson on our show at some point. So look for that at some point. When it does, I'll promote it a lot once I can nail that down. And I'm going to have Chuck join me, and probably Billy from his podcast, and a few others on the panel, so we can interview him. So
Yeah.
John, I've got somebody that sent me a book that you would be really interested in this, since you're going to be doing stuff like this.
I'm start doing some more of these. I'm going to do some other things.
The book is called Similar Transactions. I actually interviewed this woman's husband, and he was he ran for a county commission seat here in Alabama. And this is when I first started, and I had no idea that this guy, when he sent me a letter, I found out a little more about him. And this dude actually started CNN radio. Like, he worked for Turner and met Ted Turner. But his wife is named S.R. Reynolds, and she wrote the book called Similar Transactions. Like, they actually got a murder conviction of this guy that was murdering women off of her book. That's
pretty cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Wow.
So that would, I'll send you over some contact info.
Please do. That'd be awesome. And I see the comment from Chris down there as well. We should do one on DB Cooper. I'm not sure I'm familiar with DB Cooper. What's DB Cooper about?
The DB Cooper is the guy who stole all the money out of the plane and jumped out of the plane, and they never caught him.
That's crazy, right? Wow.
Yeah.
It was always speculated that he stole the money, of course.
Yeah, he jumped out of a plane with a parachute and with all the money somewhere down there in Oregon, and they never found the money. And dude, there's like thousands of dollars out there somewhere that DB Cooper left behind. But if we could find family members of him and do an interview on them, boy, that would be probably a pretty cool show, man.
Good luck finding family members. They've never figured out who he was.
Right.
I'd like to do something on him. Something else I was thinking of too. Anybody see that movie Fire in the Sky? DB Sweeney. I saw DB and that made me think of that, because I'm kind of like a
Travis Walton
outer space guy also. Those were some logging workers that I can't remember where they were located, but they reported they were abducted by a spaceship. And he told the whole story. They made a movie about it. I'd love to get some of those guys on and kind of talk about, what the real experience was, to see, if there's any truth to what they had talked about. But I'm gonna do a lot of my regular podcasts. I'm gonna start mixing in some different things that I'm interested in also, and talk about, some of those other things as well, and just try to change it up a little bit. Because Cummings and Chris, you're a little bit newer at this, but sometimes I feel like I get stale when I talk about the same things every day. I want to come up with some different ideas, talk about different things, because I get bored easily. And I figure if I'm getting bored, then the listeners are probably getting bored too, and we get to come up with some new ideas. So I'm going to probably go in some of those directions going forward. So
I mean, you can only tell them so many times that Joe Biden sucks.
it is what it is. It is what it is. And
either they get it or they don't.
It's the truth, man. That's kind of how I feel. I mean, I've kind of expressed my feelings on that pretty clearly, and I don't think I can express it any more than I already have. So I've just kind of made peace with what we've got, and I'm moving on, and hopefully we all survive the next 4 years. I'm sure we probably will, but I'm going to try to stay away from some of that stuff, because honestly, I don't think it puts me in a good place, mentally. Because I get off here and I'm all upset and I'm angry all the time, so it's not good when I'm doing that stuff. And but it was kind of funny. Now this is a little bit of a funny story. That you talk too much about politics when this happens. Now, going back a few years ago, I'm trying to think, my son is now in 6, so 5, 4, 3. Yeah, that's about right. So at the very beginning of Trump's presidency, now this is not a political thing. This is a funny story that I think you'll appreciate. So if you hear John talking politics, don't abandon right away. But my son, when he was probably in 3rd grade, maybe 2nd grade, they had this project in school. He's in elementary school, where they had to create a puppet. They had to make a puppet based on a historical figure. So you could choose anybody. It could be Babe Ruth. It could be George Washington. It could be anybody you wanted to choose. So my son, Brandon, my youngest, comes home and he goes, "Dad, can I do my puppet on Donald Trump?" And I'm like, I like Donald Trump. I talk about him. And I've got to tell you, you need to think it through before you do that, because if you decide to make your puppet, welcome Glenn, on Donald Trump, there are a lot of teachers that probably aren't going to like that. And you're going to get some heat in school from some of the teachers up here. So, but I said, if you really feel strongly that you want to make a puppet about Donald Trump for your school project, go ahead and do it. So he did it. It was a good puppet. I think we've got it up in the attic someplace. We saved it. And I go into the showcase at the school, and they literally had Donald Trump was in between George Washington and Abraham Lincoln on the table. I remember I took a picture of it, and the principal was pretty funny. This woman, Dixie, that I think is still there, actually. I walk up to her, and I was like, "Hey, that's my son's puppet." She goes, "Yes, it is, Mr. DeVito." And I said, "I like the placement between George Washington and Abraham Lincoln." And she just laughed. And she's got like a Southern accent, so I think she's from the South someplace. And, she said, "It's a very good puppet, and we displayed it prominently between 2 other great presidents." I remember laughing. I'm sure that there were probably a ton of parents that came into the room and saw my son's Donald Trump puppet and went, "Are you friggin' kidding me? Who let their son make this puppet? Why would someone do that?" Oh, DeVito? Okay, I get it.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
So
you should send that to him.
We are in liberal Massachusetts, and not a lot of people like the Republicans up here. I'm one of the few, the far between, and to see the Trump puppet at the school display was kind of funny. So, and yep, that's my son Brandon's kind of like, remember Family Ties, that old TV show? Michael J. Fox was kind of like the big time Republican child in the Democratic family. That's like Brandon. He's kind of like my Michael J. Fox character in my family, where he's all Republican all the time, which is kind of funny. I don't know.
I remember that show well. I remember that
show. So anyway, going back, we've got some new people that come in. We've kind of gotten away from the subject a little bit, but I want to ask you before we wrap up the show. We've been on for 2 hours. I'm having a blast. I'm actually in no rush to end, so I'm having fun today. I'm not sure if they can cut me off at 2 hours. Maybe they will. I don't know. I think
I think they're cutting them at 2 hours.
Oh, are they? Well, I better get this out then in case we do get cut at 2 hours. If so, I'll come back with a music show later on. But
right.
I'd like to get on the line. So Chris, we'll start with you. Then we'll go to Eric. Then we'll go to Cummings. If I get cut off at 2 hours, we've got 8 minutes left. So Chris, tell me, we talked about technology, modern technology. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it both? What can we do, I guess, as a society to maybe cut out some of the bad with technology, in your opinion?
I would say that one thing you can do is limit your children to how much they have. If they have a Facebook, that's all they need is a Facebook. They don't need a Facebook and a Twitter and a Twitch and a blah, 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 blah. They don't need all that shit. If you're going to let them have a social media, let them have one social media account. As far as technology goes, it's good and bad, all depending on how it's managed and whether you can get addicted to it or not, to where you're ignoring your day-to-day priorities. So it's got a good and a bad effect, but I think it really falls back on us parents, because however much we let our children use technology now,
just remember that's only going to advance tenfold before you're dead. So, look how much the technology has grown just since we've been alive, John.
It's changed so much. And like I've said a few times over, with new people coming in, I repeat myself a little bit so they hear it. But, as a child, I played outside all the time. And it was a fantastic childhood. My father, that's how he grew up. And when I see my children sitting in their chairs, playing Xbox, we do try to limit it. But when you limit it, and then when you tell your kids to go outside and play, there's no one outside to play with. And when they ring doorbells, the kids don't want to come outside and play because they're playing Xbox. So literally, my kids end up being outside by themselves, and then they come back inside bored. All their friends are on Xbox, and that's how they end up playing with them. So it's kind of like a very tough thing to do as a parent, because we've said that all along. We don't want to give them phones too early. We don't want to give them social media. We don't want them on video games too much. However, when they get into middle school, they get to a point where literally all their friends have phones. And if they don't have a phone, they're left out of communications. And if they're not on Xbox, that's where all their friends are, and they can't play with their friends, and they're alone. So it's a very tough thing to try to manage as a parent when you get up into those middle school years. So, who knows? Hopefully we can find some middle ground as parents and as a society. So, Eric, what do you think? I know you've been experiencing, it a little bit differently, where you've seen the trolling on Podbean.
Well,
social media bullying.
But
I think, Eric, what can we do?
And one thing people have to understand is like that coming on a platform, say like a Podbean or like a Twitter or a Facebook or any other social media platform, is that people on opposite ends, they don't really know each other. You have to, first and foremost. But I know, even though, for example, you and me, John, we've never met in person, but we've only met through here on Podbean back around April of last year, and I'm confident we'll be able to meet in person one day. But one thing is we've made it a point to at least get to know each other, and we've welcomed each other with open arms.
Right. Well, I think life is all about meeting different people. If you meet younger, older, different, part of the country, different background, different sexuality, whatever, meet people, learn about them. It makes you a better person when you expand your horizons. And I think it's good for everybody to, instead of immediately condemning, learn about people, learn about differences, try to understand. It makes you a better person.
Kind of think of the concept of never judge a book by its cover.
Right. Very true. Because if that's the case, we'd be thinking about Cummings in that cheerleading outfit. And man, I think we'd all be kind of throwing up in our mouths over that again.
Because I think at the end of the day, people have no right to be judging. The only person who is allowed to judge us is the good Lord upstairs.
The big man himself. Absolutely correct. I agree completely. So what do you got, Cummings? Just in case we do run out in 4 minutes, get your thing going. And I don't know, because they had been giving me 3 hours, but I haven't done any shows now, so I might be cut off.
Well, I think social media is terrible for kids. I don't think anyone under the age of probably 16 needs to be using social media. I don't understand.
We made that mistake. I agree with you completely. We made that mistake, and it came back to haunt us. So I would encourage younger parents to hold that social media back for a while, because it does no good at an early age.
Yeah, I don't see the point of it. And I get the stuff with like you're letting kids have cell phones and stuff like that, but there's a way that you can limit of what they can and can't access. And some people that are on the liberal spectrum are, they're stupid, and they think that, a kid deserves privacy. And, no, they don't. They're fucking a kid. They're a child. They do not deserve privacy from their fucking parents. Like, get in there and realize what your kid's doing. And if they're doing wrong, whip their ass. That's the problem with today's kids. Everybody puts them in timeout. Sometimes some kids just need to ask. I'm not talking about beat your child, but I'm saying sometimes, a kid needs a spanking, because some of these kids, man, John, you've got boys, and I'm going to tell you something. Boys are the weirdest thing, because boys, sometimes you were a young teenage boy. I was a young teenage boy. We're going to fucking rebel.
Oh, no doubt.
And if you don't have the fear of God instilled in that child, that if I go in there and slap my mom, then my dad's probably going to knock the hell out of me, and I'm not going to do that because, number one, I respect my mom, and number two, my dad will knock the hell out of me. Then, your kids will run over you if you don't. There has to be that respect factor there of a little bit of fear.
And you know my situation. My boys now are 18. My daughter's 15. My other boys are 14 and almost 12. I'm neck deep in the middle of that right now, and it's absolutely true. They rebel, and it's natural, but you need to develop that respect from your boys, because if not, they're going to run over you. They're going to treat your wife like shit. They're going to treat other women like shit, and you've got to have that. And if you don't, you're right. They're going to run all over you.
You got to have that little bit of fear in them that, okay, if I go, I know my dad's not just going to hit me for no reason. And I know my dad's not just going to scream at me for no reason. But if I've got a girlfriend and I'm 16 years old and she makes me mad and I punch her in the face, my dad's probably going to beat my ass. You know?
My 14-year-old son just walked up to me. And now, Cummings, you were saying that you should definitely never hit your son for no reason. Well, I just hit him for no reason. Did that hurt? Oh, no, we're talking about,
Yeah, he broke my arm.
Get away from me. All right. So anyway, that's my 14-year-old son. But no, I mean, I'm hard on them when I need to be. And it's a tough balancing act because you want to be strict. You want to be hard. You want to be developing. Did you just fall down the stairs? Really? My son just fell down the stairs. Hold on 1 second. Are you all right? He's laying on the bottom of the floor. Are you seriously okay? He literally just fell down the stairs from downstairs, right, and he ended up on the floor next to me. Unbelievable. Okay, so anyway, I lost my train of thought there. I thought we were going to the emergency room. Well, we'll see. Eric, hold on 1 sec. We'll see if I get cut off in 40 seconds. If we do, we do. If not, I'll let you do
in that case, Ralph is on at 6 a.m. Eastern Time weekdays. Chit Chat with the Old Man at 10 a.m. Slightly Serious, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time weeknights. And Trice Talk is going to now be on Sundays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 11 p.m. No more Friday shows for them, but Dennis Lee will still have his show on the weekends at his normal time, and then the Old Man will still have his weekend music shows and many other great podcast friends to support. And then Jeremy is still on weekdays as well, and Chris still doing his music show along with Robert and many others.
I didn't get cut off. We're still going. So it's after 2 minutes. All right, go 2 hours. Go ahead. And I'll probably hang on for a little bit longer. I'm not really in a big rush to get off. So if you guys want to hang, I'll hang for a little bit longer. But go ahead, finish that up, and we'll talk a little bit more and maybe give the show another 15 minutes or so. So go ahead, Eric.
Well, then Just Another Day in Paradise and the This Swap Doesn't Lie podcast are really good. And I think them two are prime candidates for CultureCast. Hopefully, Jeremy is working on reaching out to Felix from This Swap Doesn't Lie and reaching out to Steve and Tanya from Just Another Day in Paradise to see whether we could interest them as well. And then, of course, the It's Doomsday podcast of Woke Conservative. I think them are pretty good, too.
Good shows. Good shows. Now, what's I hear some background noise coming. Is that you?
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know what's going on. Oh, my God. What kind of show is this? It might be Glenn. I know Glenn came in. So we have to. Oh, my God. Like I said before, this definitely isn't my house. I don't have that type of skill. So, all right.
Or as Rob Reiner's mother would say, I'll have what she's having.
Exactly. Oh, obviously from a great movie, When Harry Met Sally, if you haven't seen it. Very funny movie.
The diner scene.
Man. Whew. I think I need a cold shower.
Damn.
Unbelievable, right? Man, that's pretty impressive.
And then Chuck and Billy's Not Your Cup of Tea. Let's not forget about them.
Great show.
And Oliver and Tom are on right now with their Struggle of Two Middle-Aged Men podcast.
Oh, you know what? Let me throw that out there. I know I've got a few people in the live right now, 12 people in here. We've had over 100 people come into the show today. That's pretty good for me. So if you all get a chance, check out Oliver's show. If you haven't been into that show, you have to scroll down a little bit. It's a little bit newer of a show, but they really have a very good show. It's two middle-aged men talking about their life. They're really funny. A lot of good topics. So if you haven't been into that show, check it out. I'll probably end this in like 5 minutes. And maybe you guys, if looking for something to do.
Yeah, you could jump over to go see them and show them your support.
Let them know that I sent you over there. And it's really a good show. I've been in there a few times. They're good guys. They talk about a lot of good issues. And it's really a funny show. So, I guess I want to thank everybody that came in today. And, again, this topic today, I think about this a lot, technology. I'm like everybody else, man. I've got Ring doorbells. I've got Nest thermometers. I've got an iPhone. I've got, I'm on Podbean with all my stuff here. Technology brings a lot of good things to the world, but I think also there are a lot of challenges. And I guess, listening to Cummings, listening to Chris, you're right. I think parents have to do a very good job in monitoring their children. But I can tell you both, and take this from a guy that's been doing it, for a while now, where my kids are older, it becomes difficult because literally, when your kids don't have the phone, when they don't have the Snapchat,
hey, Mr. Coley,
the Xbox, then you literally, it's very difficult for them in school. And you'll, I don't know how to even explain it to you. You'll find it as, they get a little bit older, because it becomes where, if there are 50 kids and 49 of them have it and your one child doesn't, then all the kids are kind of like, oh, how come you don't have this? Why can't we reach out to you this way? It becomes a problem. But I will say that I agree with you completely. One thing we should have done was prevent some of the social media platforms too early, because that is where bullying happens. But the thing that happens is now, even if your child, hey, Mr. Coley, how you doing? Welcome to the show, man. But even if you go out and you say, okay, kid, son, daughter, whatever, you can't have Instagram, you can't have Snapchat, or whatever is going to be in place when your kids are of that age, that doesn't mean that the bullying about them is still not going to happen on those platforms. I mean, I see things that, girls are making bad decisions and sending out pictures of themselves that they shouldn't send out. And next thing you know, it's being shared all over the school. I've seen it happen. It's happened where I live, and it's disgusting that these type of things happen. I mean, you see comments that are made that just aren't true. And instead of it being, limited now to a classroom of, 20 kids, or on the bus or at playground, you now have kids from 10 towns all around you knowing all about these things that happen and things that are being said. And that's the power and the danger of social platform, because you can really smear somebody and ruin their reputation very, very quickly. And, you can hide behind your keyboard, I guess. You can be someone that comes out and, creates a fake screen name and makes disgusting comments, and you think it's funny. But I can tell you from perspective that, me being older, I've thought about some of the bad decisions I made as a youth, and some of the things I did that were inappropriate. And, there were times where I bullied kids, and I regret it to this day. You will eventually regret the things you do. You will eventually regret the mistakes that you make. And some of those mistakes, depending on how serious they become, will haunt you throughout your lifetime. They will haunt you. And I know there are adults in here that can say that they've been through tough things in their lives. And when you're older, these things bother you, and they stay with you, and they don't go away. So think about the decisions you make very, very carefully before you make them. Because imagine if you bully the wrong person and that person takes their life. You can never change that. You can't bring that person back. And that will haunt you every day for the rest of your life. There was one girl that I knew, this girl, Robin, I can mention her name now because she's no longer with us. In elementary school, apparently I bullied her. I don't remember it. Apparently in middle school, she came up to me, and this didn't happen very often, but she asked me to dance. I was not too popular with the ladies in middle school, but I was at a dance, and apparently I told her no in a very rude fashion. So I didn't remember this happened at all. I take her word for it. It probably happened. I was a moron. I'm sure it did. So years later, I ended up becoming friends with her on Facebook. And I remember I added her on Facebook, and she wrote me back a private message, and she said point blank, "Are you fucking kidding me? You were an asshole to me." And I was like, wow, I was? And she's like, honestly, you don't remember. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I really don't. I'm sorry. What did I do? And then she told me. And I remember I wrote her back and said, oh my God, I am really, really, really sorry. I know that doesn't take away from what I said to you. I don't remember it, honestly. But if I said that to you, and I believe that I did because you're saying that I did, I can't tell you how sorry I am. I was a stupid kid. I was immature. I had a lot of problems with my family. And man, that was just mean and cruel. And nothing I can say, can fix that. But I just want you to know that I'm sorry. And I remember that she and I actually became friends on Facebook. Like, she accepted my apology. We became friends. But then she started to tell me that she had a lot of problems, mental illness. She had problems. A lot of it stemmed from her childhood. There was, I guess some sexual abuse that happened when she was a kid. And she was in a relationship at this point with a guy, and apparently he was very abusive. Well, all of a sudden, I see it posted on Facebook. I just talked to her 2 days earlier, via text, and she took her life. She hung herself in her basement, or hanged herself in her basement. She killed herself. And it was reported as a hanging, as a suicide. But a lot of people felt that maybe it wasn't a suicide, that maybe her abusive husband was behind it. So I can't judge that because I don't know. But I mean, here was a woman that went through a lot in her life. And that, that one thing I said to her in middle school, she was probably going through hell. She tried to work up the courage to come over and ask me out to dance. And honestly, I should have thrown a party because someone actually asked me to dance, because I was an ugly motherfucker in middle school. And,
Didn't change much.
Yeah, it's true. I know. I did go through a period where I was at least not enough to make someone vomit, but now I'm back to the vomit stage. So it is what it is. Because I found a wife, I can't get divorced because I'm going to be alone by myself. But listen, I am going to wrap up the show. But just think about the things you're doing. Think about the things you're saying. And if any kids happen to listen to this show, I probably none do. But if you do, be kind. If there's someone at lunch that has no friends, sit with them. If someone, if you walk by someone that's not very popular on the playground, ask them to play with you. I mean, do something nice. If you're an adult, same thing. Do something kind for somebody. It doesn't take that much effort, and the reward for you is as strong as the reward for anybody else. You do something kind for somebody else, it makes you feel good about yourself inside too. And you can't buy that. You can't pay for it, So anyway, for everybody here, thank you. It's been a good show. I'll be back again tomorrow. I'm going to be doing, while I'm busy at work right now, I'll probably be doing some weekend shows because I have more time. And then hopefully at some point I'll get back to weekday shows. But I'm going to do a music show later on today. When I do my music shows, I'm not as good as Chris. Chris takes requests and does all that stuff. I generally play some of my favorite songs, and I sit in front of the computer sometimes. Other times I play it in my house. I'm walking around doing things. So if you come in and you chat in my show, you may not get a response from me right away, but I do eventually come in and look at everything and respond back to people. But join my rock show on today. And Chris is going to be playing music all day tomorrow. If you haven't been into his show, man, he takes requests, plays in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and today, and does a great job. And that's definitely a show you want to check out. And that's the VCR show up above there. You see Chris in the panel now. So
John,
everybody,
if I don't hear from you before next weekend, you can take your nor'easters and keep that shit up there because we're going to get one Friday.
Another one tomorrow. I'm done. No more snow, dude. Did you see my pictures on my Twitter page, my suspended Twitter page, the one I created? Yeah. I mean, you saw that was my SUV, man. And that snow pile has got to be 15 feet high. It's taller than our basketball hoop. It's just crazy. And we got more coming tomorrow. So I'm done, man. I'm sick of it.
Oh, we got it coming tonight. We got a snow mix coming tonight. And then Friday, we've got a fucking blizzard coming.
Ugh. I'm sorry, brother.
I have my teeth cleaning appointments coming up Wednesday and Thursday. Hopefully, I won't have to reschedule them.
Yeah, that'd be true too. I know it's a hassle to have to reschedule that stuff. So hopefully not. But everyone, hey, be happy out there. Be good. Remember, go check out. What was the name of the show? I forgot it already. Jesus, this is my.
The Struggle of Two Middle-Aged Men with Oliver and Tom. But be on the lookout. Should Slightly Serious do an impromptu show over the weekend to make up for the canceled show on Friday. But otherwise, he'll be back Monday at 9:30 Eastern. Chit chat with the old man again, 10 a.m. Eastern every weekday. Plus his Friday and Sunday music shows. Ralph, 6 a.m. Eastern, and then Cummings' Culture is also on weekdays as well. And then Trice Talk, no longer doing Friday night shows. They're on Sundays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Dennis Lee's still doing his shows. And also check out and support Lara and a few other friends and Milk Dog and many others.
I'll tell you, if we ever had an Eric Kirk show, he'd take over Bards in like a week. He'd be up there at number one.
I wish. But I don't have the loyal following like Bards does.
Well, I didn't realize who he was. I mean, he's got a big following. I was looking on the download page.
But despite Bart's having a lot of skeletons in his closet, it just seems like his audience is just not fazed by him being as crooked as he is.
Well, if you look at him, I mean, Don Bongino has like 1 million downloads. Bards has 3 million. So I mean, he's a big show. I don't think I realized how big he was.
Yeah.
That's a big show. And I'm
happy. Who else is on Podbean now?
I had as many as 20.
Who's that?
He's got over 1,000 in his show and his live. I mean, that's just crazy stuff. So, all right, everybody, take care. Have a great.
Who's on Podbean now, Cummings?
Rudy Giuliani. I noticed he had the
my goodness!
beside his name the other day. So that means he's verified on Podbean.
That's awesome.
Wow.
With his live. Wow.
That's all right, but we'll see everybody later.
All right, take care, everybody. Love you all.
Thanks for having me on the show, John.
All right, you're welcome, guys. It was a pleasure to have you. Oh, what did I do with my music? I just shut it off accidentally. There we go. It's back. Boomer running a road pro.
Love you. God bless you. See you next time, everybody.
Yes! Yes!